It's doubleheader action today with an Eastern Division battle between the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets. Or you'll see sensational Eric Davis lead Cincinnati against hot-hitting Glenn Davis and the Houston Astros. Then Game 2 has Dave Winfield and the Yankees off to a great start going against the Brewers. Or the Atlanta Braves looking to turn things around against Kirk Gibson and the Dodgers. But first, NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look. Brought to you by Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers, and by Armor All Protectant. It protects and beautifies every time you wash your car. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert in New York, and welcome to the start of our baseball day here on NBC. We'll be with you for the next 6 hours or so with the Twin Bill, our first of the year. So hope you stay with us throughout the day. First, let's get you caught up on what took place last night around the major leagues. The Atlanta Braves continue to roll, but in the wrong direction. In Los Angeles, Rick Dempsey, with a run-scoring single in the 7th, gave the Dodgers a 3-2 win over the Braves. They're 0-9. That ties a National League record for most losses at the start of the season. The loss is beginning to affect the players. Teammates Ozzie Virgil and Gerald Perry got into it nose-to-nose, a rare on-field show of emotion. At Shea Stadium, Dwight Gooden with a strong outing. The Mets blanked the Cards 3-0 in a game shortened to 6 innings because of rain. Gooden now 3-0, 3 straight Met shutouts. In Houston, Paul O'Neill of the Reds came through with this 2-run double with 2 out in the 10th. Reds beat the Astros 4-2 to stop Houston's win streak at 4. In the American League, the injury hit Jack Clark made his Yankee debut. First at bat, RBI single. The 9-1 Yanks beat Milwaukee 7-1, while the Indians are now 9-2 with last night's win over the Orioles. Baltimore now 0-10, tying the 3rd longest season-opening losing streak in Major League history. Now enter Frank Robinson into the picture. The big baseball story this past week, the struggling Orioles firing Cal Ripken, and they have hired Frank Robinson as their new MGR. It's the 3rd managerial stint for Robinson, who was baseball's first black manager with Cleveland back in 1975. That following a Hall of Fame career primarily with the Reds and the Orioles. His 586 career home runs ranked 4th in Major League history. He was MVP in 61 with the Reds and in 66 with the Orioles. He's managed the Indians and the Giants. He had been serving as assistant general manager of the Orioles, but now Frank is back on the field and is with us from Baltimore, where tonight the Indians will play the Orioles. Frank, thanks for taking the time. You get to the ballpark pretty early these days.
Well, I have to. I wear 2 hats. I go from 9 to 3 upstairs, and I go from 3 on downstairs.
Frank, you were quoted as saying you're not sure if you made the correct career decision in taking this job with a club like the Orioles, now 0-10. Are there regrets in light of the first week?
No, there's no regrets, Marv. What I meant by that is someone asked me if I was making the right career decision. I said, I don't know at this time. We'll have to wait and see.
Now, you have made the point in the past that black managers have not had the luxury of taking over contending ball clubs, which has hurt that success. You're in the same situation now.
Well, I am, and I knew that coming in, but it's a special situation here with the Orioles. I feel like, hey, I owe them something because they've been so good to me as a player and as a coach, and now the front office and now manager.
Do you consider yourself a tough manager? I can recall an incident when you were handling the Giants. This was back in 1983. Pitcher Jim Barr of your ball club was in the midst of being relieved from the game, and the two of you went at each other pretty good.
Well, I feel like I can be tough when I have to be. I don't think I'm that way all the time. I think I can be flexible, and I think I can be open and honest with the players.
Now, there will be a Frank Robinson book released in June by McGraw-Hill. It is entitled Extra Innings, and you make some strong statements, in particular concerning the lack of blacks in decision-making positions in baseball. And you indicate dissatisfaction with the likes of Commissioner Peter Ueberroth and also with the role of Harry Edwards.
Well, at that time, Marv, I didn't think that they were headed in the right direction. Since then, there have been some moves made and people hired and a lot of progress made. But we still do not have minorities and blacks in decision-making positions. The general manager, front office personnel, as far as decision-making positions are concerned. Until that happens, I'm going to be a little dissatisfied.
Are you still greatly dissatisfied with their role?
No, I'm not, because I think there's been great progress made. I think they have a real game plan. I've been privileged to share some of that information, and I feel like we're headed in the right direction.
I'd like to jump around, Frank, and throw some names at you derived from opinions in the book. You call one-time Dodger manager Walt Alston a myth. You played for him briefly. What's your beef with Alston?
Well, it really wasn't a beef. I was just maybe expecting too much from playing against him from across the field. I just expected more than he gave the ball club when I was there in 1972.
And you were not thrilled with Jack Clark when you were manager of the Giants. Clark was your first baseman.
Well, I just thought Jack got involved too much with other people's problems and didn't really concentrate on playing baseball and being the best ball player he could be and to try to help the San Francisco Giants win ball games.
Will Frank Robinson eventually be baseball's first black general manager?
Well, that's a good question, Marv. I hope they don't have to wait that long. I hope there's someone before me. And if I feel like at that time I still would like to pursue that position, then I will do so.
Final thought. Some people believe that there is now the danger that with you as manager, other clubs now will not be obliged to give other black candidates a shot. Do you feel that's so?
Well, I don't know. I hope not. In the past, when I was hired twice, once in Cleveland and San Francisco, I thought it would open up the door. And I certainly feel like with me coming back down to the field, the door is open again, but I hope it doesn't close behind me, and we have to make sure that it doesn't.
All right, Frank, thank you very much, and appreciate you taking the time to come out so early. Frank Robinson, the new manager of the Orioles, who are struggling with that record of 0-10. We'll be back with David Letterman's uncanny look into the future. You get the idea, he may be spending too much time these days around Larry Bud Melman. The year of the balk. There was one man and only one man who saw it coming. Now, last season, I asked the psychic David Letterman for his suggestions as to what he would like to see to improve the game of baseball.
I'd like to see more balks. I'd like to see that become a regular feature of the game and part of the strategy. You see one every 2-3 games at the most. You know, that's if you're lucky. And for me, a balk fan, a balk maven, if you will, I really like to see him. You know, I'm going to talk to the commissioner about that. And it seems like you'd start filling up the parks. You know, if people went knowing that they could guarantee their sons and daughters, you know, tonight, kids, we're going to see a balk.
Well, the man obviously ahead of his time. And this year, Dave incidentally says he would like to see more catcher interference plays. On the subject of the balk, one of the thrilling moments of the game, going into today, 136 balks have been called over the first 12 days of the season as compared to 31 a year ago. And our News of the Week review is highlighted by a couple of outstanding balk performances. This past Tuesday night, Bobby Witt of Texas tied an American League record with 4 balks in one game, and he did it with 4 balks within 3 innings. That's the record held by Vic Raschi of the Yanks, accomplished back in 1950. And then Wednesday night, Oakland's Rick Honeycutt joined that select list with 4 balks in 4 innings of relief. On the brighter side, in Pittsburgh, Pirate Pride is coming out to the ballpark in large numbers. The Bucks' home opener, their first regular season shutout in Three Rivers Stadium history, and Pirate leadoff man Barry Bonds reached base safely in 7 consecutive games in his first at-bat. The Bucks in first place for the first time since September of '83. Moving to the lighter side, although Hubie Brooks of Montreal might not agree, check out this pitch. Hubie fouls it off his groin and needed some recovery time. To make matters worse, he went 0 for 4 on the day. In Toronto, no, it wasn't a balk. A friendly seagull landed on the field in a game which lasted 4 hours and 15 minutes, 1 minute short of the American League record for a 9-inning game. And Dave Winfield, who certainly had his fill of seagulls in Toronto this time, wanted no part of it. And if you think the Braves are having their troubles on the field, watch Albert Hall in the on-deck circle. Albert going one-on-one with the batting donut and came out a second best. When we return, we'll be chatting with Bob Horner of the St. Louis Cardinals. Bob, the one-time pride of the Yakult Swallows of the Japanese Baseball League. standout All-American career at Arizona State, Bob Horner spent 9 seasons with the Atlanta Braves, hitting 215 home runs. Last year, he jumped to the Yakult Swallows of the Japanese Central League, signing a huge contract, and came through as the leading hitter among players from the United States. Now he's back in the majors with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cards signing Bob following the departure of Jack Clark, and Bob Horner is off to a .379 start. Pretty good for a guy who usually gets off to a slow start. And he is with us from Shea Stadium, where the Cardinals are preparing to play the Mets. Bob, I know the money was good. You did not have many options. But could you actually get satisfaction out of playing baseball in Japan?
Yeah, I could. You know, for me, it was basically a chance that I was taking. If I waited around, it was already April, going on May, and I didn't have a job yet. So I was staring at not playing ball for the year, so that was my only option, really. Is
there anything you miss about playing baseball in Japan?
Oh, I think that the people and the fans at the ballpark, they're wonderful people, very polite and courteous. They really enjoy the game, and they really back and support their teams.
Now, after you signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, manager Whitey Herzog did not seem to be thrilled by your presence. He did not appear to be a Bob Horner fan. What was your reaction when you heard the quotes?
Well, the quote was made right before I actually flew to St. Louis to sign the contract, and obviously I would not have signed the contract if I wasn't satisfied that the manager didn't want me there. The game's tough enough as it is if the front office and the management don't want you there. So I had a conversation with Whitey and was very happy with the conversation.
So you smoothed it all over?
Yeah, we talked about it at great length, and some things were quoted and some things were misquoted, and I was very satisfied.
Bob Horner of the Yakult Swallows doesn't seem to have the right ring about it. Did the Cardinals incidentally throw into the deal that you would have a chauffeur interpreter as you did in Japan?
That was something that was necessary over there. When you don't speak the language, it's just tough to get in a cab and go somewhere if you can't understand him and he can't understand you.
All right, Bob, thanks for coming on.
Okay, my pleasure, Mark.
All right, Bob Horner of the St. Louis Cardinals, and we are closing in on game time, the start of our doubleheader baseball day here on NBC, and we'll open up with either the Mets and the Cardinals or the Reds and the Astros. Thanks for joining us. We'll be keeping you posted with updates throughout the Twin Bill. Marv Albert in New York. Now let's go to the ballpark.
For the last 3 years in the National League, the hot hands have been held by the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets, and the trump card in each case has been the home run. In 1985, Game 6 of the League Championship Series, Jack Clark hits a home run to break Tom Niedenfuhr's heart, frustrate Pedro Guerrero, and the Cardinals win it 7-5 and go on to the World Series. In 1986, Howard Johnson facing Todd Worrell in the 9th inning. A 2-run home run to tie the game in a contest the Mets would win in 10 innings and go on to play in the World Series. And in 1987, a 2-out, 2-run 9th inning home run by Terry Pendleton gives the Cardinals a win and might have been the biggest single hit by a Cardinal last year, and it was against Roger McDowell. And today, it's the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals, arch rivals in the National League, on the Game of the Week.
The National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Shea Stadium, it's the St. Louis Cardinals versus the New York Mets. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. By Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. And by GMAC, the official sponsor of America's Dreams.
everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Welcome to Shea Stadium in New York. And the weatherman has given us somewhat of a break, although it could very well be the warmest thing about the day would be the rivalry between the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals. And it is a rivalry. Rivalries are not hype necessarily, just as nicknames. They won't apply or stick unless there's some substance to it, and there's plenty of substance when you talk about the Mets and the Cardinals. We went to one of the co-captains, not Gary Carter. This time it was Keith Hernandez of the Mets, to give us an insight into what it's like to be a player deeply involved in that rivalry. And to find out about it, here's Joe.
Okay, Vin. Keith, we've heard things like disrespectful jerks, the arrogant Mets, that kind of pressure, how does it affect you? What do you do in the clubhouse?
Well, it doesn't really bother us. I mean, we've had that label now since 86, really. I mean, I remember coming here, I know a lot of guys get upset with the curtain calls, and I don't like the curtain call. I don't want to ever show a pitcher up, but I remember when I was first traded here, and I hit my first home run here, and there was 5,000 people in the stands here. If you were lucky, there were 5,000 people. And they kept applauding and applauding, and Rusty came up to me and said, Keith, you got to do it here. And that was back in the days when the Mets were a last-place team. And when I see around the league, too, they're taking curtain calls everywhere. The fans love it. It's kind of like the showbiz of the game.
What about the Cardinals, though, themselves? They seem to be the bitter team. They seem to say the most. Ozzie Smith is very outspoken.
Well, in spring training, he said a few things, and that didn't really go over well with us. But, you know, it's all part of the rivalry between us, which I think the rivalry has not been created by things said back and forth to each other. I think it's just the fact that we have been competitors now for the last 3 years, and the rivalry's developed because we've finished second twice, and they finished first, and they've been fighting us, and we've been fighting them.
And we'll see what happens today, huh?
Well, it should be a great game. There's two good teams.
Good. Okay, Vin.
So today it'll be Joe Magrane going against Sid Fernandez. And just imagine, the Mets have hit 16 home runs so far this year. If there's another one hit today and there's another curtain call, there'll be another log thrown on the fire. We'll get to the starting lineups and of all the pregame stats and stories, all coming up right after this. Here's the visiting lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals. Leading off in left field, returning from a sore Achilles, Vince Coleman. In the second slot will be the shortstop, Ozzie Smith. Hitting in the number 3 position, the second baseman, Tommy Hurd. And at first base, Bob Horner. In center field, Willie McGee, followed by the third baseman, Terry Pendleton. Jim Lindemann will be in right field, batting 7th. Steve Lake will be behind the plate, resting Tony Pena today. And Joe Magrane will be the pitcher. Magrane looking for a decision. He's been out twice, and he had no decision each time. Joe Magrane, who is the pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals today, gained his first Major League win in his first career start against the New York Mets. This year, he did not figure in a decision in either start, but in the opening game, Magrane was called for 2 balks. He also led the Cardinals in balks last year.
I've talked to Bruce Fleming about it and asked him about the balk because it is news, and he says we're not doing anything different we haven't done in other years. And here's what he said when I asked him about it. I'm going to come to a set position. Bruce, tell me as an umpire what you're looking for.
I'm looking for you to come to a stop, Joe. Your whole body right there. That's a stop.
All right, now watch this.
All right? That's a balk.
Why?
Because you moved before you came to a stop.
So you watch the leg end?
Absolutely. Watch the entire body. Everything's got to come to a stop.
Bruce did not use the words that are in the rule book, but the words are clearly spelled out. A complete and discernible stop so that everybody in the ballpark can see that pitcher come to a stop position.
And that operative word, discernible, is what leaves it open to umpire's judgment. Was it discernible to you, may not be to me, and here we go again. But they're looking for the stop. That's the thing.
It'll be interesting today, too, because not trying to beat a dead horse. The horse is very much alive. The balk is being called every day in so many games. For instance, to give you an idea, we can give you a little graphic on the balk. And they are well on the pace to surpass that, and by plenty. Look at the projection of what could be in the National League, and the American League projection would take your breath away. 1,600 balks. The reason we bring it up especially today, you have two left-handers in this game. Neither one is known as a left-hander with a good move to first base, Sid Fernandez and Joe Magrane.
And both clubs are running. And the interesting thing to me, too, is that one way you stop a runner is to hold that ball and hope that you can drain the spring from his legs. So you would think that making them stop, the runner can't read the move, and therefore it would help the pitcher. But that's not been the case.
Well, you know, if you hold the ball too long, you could be called for a balk and delay of the game. Meanwhile, as Sid Fernandez with a record of 0-1, no record against the Cardinals, 1-1 last year and 4-3 lifetime, tunes up. Let's take a look at the ball club behind him.
The defense for the Mets, as you look at it, and it's a good defense, both infield and outfield. The key man would be Mookie Wilson, who keeps wanting to get traded, but keeps getting base hits because he doesn't like to platoon with Lenny Dykstra. He'll be in center field. But I think the spotlight is brighter on Elster. They made room for Elster by trading Santana, and as only in New York can it happen, Santana made an error, Billy benched him, and now there's a big battle of words between Billy Martin and Darryl Strawberry.
Well, there are indeed many words hurling around, but let's get to some complimentary words. And, of course, Bud Harrelson played so well for so many years here, and when Buddy speaks about a shortstop, everyone listens. Kevin Elster will be the best shortstop in the history of the Mets.
When he first came up, they said, well, he was arrogant, he was cocky, but the youngster admits that what it was just a facade to try to cover up a bad case of nerves in the first play. I believe the ball went right through his legs, but he's got that can't-miss label on him, and obviously when they trade to make room for you, they believe in you. That's the best way of telling you.
He's off to a slow start. He has 4 hits, and he's committed 2 errors, but everyone in the Mets camp feels that he will do the job. Meanwhile, doing the job will be the leadoff man, Vince Coleman, who'd been sidelined, didn't play last night in the Gooden's magnificent performance. Coleman with a sore ankle. It's the Achilles area, and he's been struggling particularly against Sid Fernandez. And if those wheels aren't right, then you lose a lot in the Cardinal attack.
He keeps a statistic, Vin. When he's been on base in 1985, 27 balks were called. In 86, he caused 28. In 87, 29. And he says, that hurts me personally, because if I cause a balk, I should be credited with a stolen base. And I think he has a point.
Well, as far as the Mets are concerned, he has been perfect. He last year stole 15 bases in 15 attempts against the Mets. And in his young career, 30 stolen bases in 30 attempts. However, Fernandez has given him a bad time. He has only 3 hits and 20 at-bats, and the big left-hander has struck him out 8 times. So the youngster from Hawaii pitching in 42-degree weather here in New York. And here we go. 1 ball and no strikes.
They're going to try to speed him up because even the players say when Sid pitches, he can put you to sleep.
Last year, you might remember, he was named to the National League All-Star team and picked up a save. Fastball fouled away. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Against the Cardinals last year with a record of 1-1, he lost on the 19th of April 4-2, and he came back on the 24th, turned in a complete game and beat him 2-1. The Mets pitchers have been staggering in the last 3 games. Triple shutout. Fouled away. What an act to follow. And Gooden, of course, tacked on another shutout last night.
Gary Carter having trouble seeing that ball. He did not see that foul ball go off the bat. He's asking Hernandez at first base especially for some help. The sky is not that high. There are some clouds out there, but he didn't see the foul ball.
1-2, and the crowd wants him to be punched out. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count. Ron Darling, a shutout. Bobby Ojeda, a shutout. And then last night in 6 innings, Dwight Gooden, a shutout. There's Dwight. They said he was just about unhittable when he pitched his 2-hitter last night. Fouled away again. So Coleman is still up there, followed by Ozzie Smith and Tommy Herr. The Cardinals bring so much to the game. 5 of the 6 hitters in the lineup are switch hitters.
Tell you how on Gooden was, Vin. Mel Stottlemyre told me that out of 90 pitches, only 2 were under 90 miles per hour. Those were 89.
2 balls, 2 strikes. High pop fly on the left side. Howard Johnson coming towards the mound. That keeps Coleman off the bags, at least for the first time up. 1 away. Interesting thing, the Cardinals and the Mets, and we talk about the great rivalry, and it is indeed. When you look at the schedule, they will play again next weekend. They will play in St. Louis in early June and in New York in mid-June. They don't play again till the next to the last weekend and the last weekend. In other words, these 2 great rivals will go from the 15th of June to the 23rd of September and not play each other. And that's more than half the season. So if you're going to hurt the other guy, you got to do it right away. This is how the Cardinals feel about the Mets being ranked favorites. Fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Ozzy's been on kind of a crusade because in the playoff series, remember, he didn't think the Giants gave him enough respect, and he certainly doesn't think that the Mets give him enough respect. And these fans reacted to it because they see the quotes that come out of spring training.
Then, of course, there was the big article in GQ.
He doesn't even want to talk about that.
No. You know, there's a great lesson, I think, to be learned by the player and certainly by the writer of the publication. If you're going to do an extensive interview with a man, I think you should have a tape recorder, maybe 2 tape recorders, and when it's over, each man has a copy of what's been said. Now, when that story comes out, if it's wrong, you have proof. But for him to now say, I didn't say that, I'm sure Tom Boswell, who wrote the story, a fine writer, he's going to say, baloney, my notes say he did say it. If it was taped, it'd be the answer.
It would be a good solution, because I tell you, the epitome was when a football player said he was misquoted and it was his own book.
3-1. Full count. Ozzie Smith, Sid Fernandez with 1 out in the first inning.
The thing that makes Fernandez so effective, his delivery, number 1, but it's that curveball. They don't think it's going to break for a strike, and if you're looking for it, it looks like it's out the strike zone. It'll freeze you, is what the players say it does.
3-2, the count to Ozzie. Got him. Ozzie Smith struck out only 36 times in over 600 at-bats last year. So when you see Ozzie strike out, it's news.
2 strikes. He just wants to put the bat on the ball. This is a good fastball. It's a high fastball, and that's the one pitch he's been able to lay off of, but he just swung under it. He tried to just get a piece of it and missed it completely.
So 2 down in the first inning, and Tommy Herr, the batter. One of the things to keep in mind about the New York Mets, the difference between 1986 and 1987, and now perhaps the difference in 88, is the so-called Big Five, the starters. Ball 1. 1986, when they were the champions, the Big Five made 148 starts. They made 35 fewer starts last year, 35, and they wound up losing by 3 games. Well, they've already gotten a healthy staff together this year, so they figure to be very, very tough.
And the bullpen is different. Davey says they lost some 20-odd ball games last time at bat, and he needs somebody to come in and close it for him.
There's the so-called starters, and of course some of them were barely able, and for a lot of reasons did not make. Look at Bobby Ojeda with only 7 starts, for instance. 1 ball and 1 strike. 2-1. However, as the Cardinals point out, and they are right, every year they talk about the Mets winning, and we've won 2 out of 3. Whitey summed up the rivalry, I think, too. He said, we play September games in April. Davy Johnson isn't quite as outspoken or as quotable, but he gets a few words out. 2-1, now 3-1.
Vinny, you get the feeling, I remember when DeRocher was managing, the teams managed against him. I think that Whitey Herzog is now in that position where teams manage against him.
I think he's acknowledged as the finest manager in the game today, and for good reason.
And if that is the case, that's an edge for Whitey.
3-1. Foul back, 3-2. Another thing about the Mets pitching, and you were talking about the bullpen, they're going to have to change. Last year, the Mets lost 8 games at home here in Shea when they led after 6 innings. Now, that's really putting the body at the doorstep of the bullpen.
Davey says the big man in his bullpen this year is going to be Dave Cone. I hadn't heard that before, but he said he's going to be there. He thinks Roger McDowell is back, but Cone is going to be a big man for him.
3-2 the count to Tommy Herr with 2 down in the first inning. Fly ball to right field. Darryl Strawberry calling. And that's it. Hang up another 0. That's 28 consecutive scoreless innings for the Mets staff. At the end of half an inning, Cardinals nothing. Here come the Mets. A well bundled up crowd on a somewhat gray and somber day here at Shea Stadium. Here's the way the New York Mets will stack up. Mookie Wilson in center field, followed by Tim Tuffle at second base and Keith Hernandez at first. Darryl Strawberry in right field and Kevin McReynolds in left. Gary Carter behind the plate and Howard Johnson at third. Kevin Elster, the shortstop, and Sid Fernandez, the pitcher. And on the mound trying to get him out, the left-hander Joe Magrane. Magrane winning his first career start April the 25th last year here at Shea when he beat the Mets 3-2. And for a fella who got all the really difficult and glamour exciting starts, he made his, as you saw, in the LCS and in the World Series, and now here he is trying to right the ship.
There's a defense at outfield. Good speed with McGee in center field. Smith has a little fluid on his knees, so we'll see if that affects him. Pendleton has a tender right shoulder.
1 ball and no strikes. The count to Mookie Wilson. He's been a hot hitter. 3 RBIs in his last 2 starts. He and Len Dykstra have done exceptionally well. The top of the Mets lineup has been extremely productive. The bottom has been very quiet. 2-1 the count. Cardinal pitching. One big reason why they got into the World Series last year. Fewest home runs allowed in the major leagues. Fewest road home runs allowed. Chopper down to shortstop. Ozzie Smith right there. 1 away. You know, in looking at Ozzie Smith as shortstop, it is certainly not coincidental. In the 14 years prior to when Ozzie was not with the Cardinals were never first. They have been first 3 times in his 6 years with the Cardinals, and there's one reason. 8 straight Gold Gloves.
Well, that whole side of the infield, it makes it pretty strong to get one through there, and that's why Whitey likes to use left-hand pitchers. He wants right-hand hitters in the lineup, and if they pull that ball, he's got Pendleton and Smith to gobble it up.
And it has happened before. Strike 1 to Tim Tuffle. When you look at Ozzie Smith, he has 8 Gold Gloves. Terry Pendleton, the Cardinal third baseman, won the Gold Glove last year at his position. And with all that gold on the left side, when a left-hander starts, well, you're playing into Whitey's hands. And all you have to do is look back at the success of the Baltimore Orioles. Remember when they had Mike Cuellar and Dave McNally? The American League would load up with right-hand batters, and they'd spend all day hitting ground balls to Brooks Robinson and Mark Belanger and lose.
Whitey gets that ballpark, and he gets that ball club to fit it.
Comebacker, and Magrane should take care of that. 2 down.
If there's one thing you can say about that Cardinal ball club, I think the key is the double play to this extent. They can keep it in order on defense with the players that they have out there, and they stay away from it on offense because of the great speed that they have. It's tough to double up this ball club, and when they are in the infield and outfield like they are now, they'll keep it in order.
Keith Hernandez with his left hand heavily taped. He got it caught on a taxi cab door. Took about 5 stitches on the back of that left hand. Keith said it doesn't bother him hitting. It bothers him gripping the baseball and throwing it. Right. Fernandez had an honor, a singular honor last year. As you see the close-up of the hand. He was the only left-hand batter to hit a home run against Magrane last year. 0-1. Ground ball to the hole. Tommy Herr to plug it up on the rim. And an easy first inning for Magrane. So at the end of an inning at Shea Stadium in New York, the Cardinals nothing and the Mets nothing. Just a week before Bob Horner signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, the outspoken Whitey Herzog said, "I just don't think Horner's the answer." Talking about filling Clark's shoes. He never could hit in St. Louis. He can't run and he can't field. One of the reasons I think Whitey felt that way was to look closely at Bob Horner's home run stats. In Atlanta, a hitter's park, he hit one every 12 at-bats. It took him twice as long in the other stadiums.
But isn't it funny, after he got him, how it changed to the extent, because he was the best available, he said, well, Horner's a professional RBI guy, and there's a difference between a professional RBI guy and just another guy. Now, I don't know what that difference is, but when you got him wearing Redbirds, and Horner wanted to convince Whitey, he asked his agent to convince the Cardinals to sign him that he could do the job, and I'll tell you something. He was the best available, and so far he's able to do the job.
Well, the nice thing about Bob Horner, I mean, he is a fine hitter, and he's going to pick up an awful lot of runs getting men home from third just because he makes contact. He only struck out twice so far this year. That'll be Tuffle. So Horner fouls out to Tim Tuffle, and one down here in the second inning with Willie McGee and Terry Pendleton coming up. Tuffle has pretty much taken over the job at second base from Wally Backman, who, among other things, is kind of beaten up.
You know, Vin, it'll be interesting when you add up Horner's RBIs, because 125 RBIs is what they got at the fourth slot last year, but obviously it depends on what kind of year Coleman, Smith, and Herr have. I mean, you can't drive anybody in if they're not on. It's pretty simple.
He'll pick up quite a few. Here's Wonderful Willie. Struggling right now, however. Doing a little bit better. He's hitting .250 from this side of the plate. McGee, with everything else, needs 2 more stolen bases to have 200 in his career. And he's hitting just about .290 lifetime against the Mets. He also has hit Fernandez well in the past. Almost .370. To show you that McGee has been around a little while, he needs 10 more hits, and Willie will have 1,000 in his career. No score. Top of the second inning. 2 balls, 1 strike. Right side to Tuffle, and that's the second out. One thing that has happened here as far as the weather is concerned, it's really swirling. It's hard to say. If you look at center field, the wind is coming in from the right field corner. If you look at the flags atop the left field stand, it's coming in out of the northwest. So it is really swirling, and with it, some very dark, ominous clouds start to move over the ballpark. They've talked about a possibility of snow flurries today.
Some of the Met players, especially Hernandez, they depend on the planes landing at LaGuardia to see which way the wind is blowing.
1 ball and no strikes to Terry Pendleton.
I was in the clubhouse, and the Cardinals traveling secretary said Andy Van Slyke's wife was over at Pittsburgh, called for tickets, said there's an inch of snow in Pittsburgh.
Little fly ball down the right field line, slicing foul, and will drop in the stands. We showed you Terry Pendleton's finest moment last year at the very top of the show. He had that big 2-out, 2-run 9th inning home run in September. That might very well have been the biggest single Cardinal hit all of last year. Boy, what a year he had. 96 RBIs, career highs in about 4 different departments. He even had a 28-game hitting streak on the road. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ball 2, 2-1.
Remember when you were a kid, Vin, they'd give you a bat that said be sure you could read the label so you wouldn't crack it. Players don't care anymore. Look at Pendleton. He just grabs that bat. It's everywhere.
2-1 to count it, Terry. And fouled it away again, 2-2. You might remember during the league championship series, Pendleton was sidelined for game 3 with a sprained ankle. Then he had pulled muscles in his left side in game 7 of the championship series. And that restricted him in the World Series to pinch hitting and DH from the left side. Boy, what a man not to have full time. Fouled away. Terry Pendleton. He has played in 159 games each of the last 2 years, and the year before that 149. In fact, if you look at Iron Men out there, it would be Pendleton, Smith, and Keith Hernandez. They go to work just about every day. 3-2. I would think they're going to have to put the lights on soon.
It's cold enough that the umpires are letting the umpires, as we check those clouds, the umpires are letting the pitchers blow into their hands. You're not allowed to do that normally, but today it's okay.
42 at game time. And the first base runner of the day is Terry Pendleton with a 2-out pass given up by Fernandez.
Number 15, right fielder Jim Lindemann.
The Cardinals have stolen a dozen bases so far this year. And, of course, that's a great part of their attack. They have led the National League in stolen bases 6 straight years.
Fernandez has had 3 full counts in the first 6 hitters, and that really goes against the edict that Stottlemyre gave out, and I got a copy of it. 80% of all walks occur when the first pitch is a ball. And he gave it to all his pitchers. There's a lot more on there. Darling, he gave 3 copies.
Oh, there's a balk. There's the balk.
There it is.
So that's number 1. And Pendleton to second base. Sid knew it.
You got to stop, according to Fleming. Let's see, how blatant was it? A discernible stop. This is normal speed. You be the umpire. Right there. Yeah, he didn't stop.
That's his second balk of the year. So with 2 down, Pendleton walks and then the balk.
All 3 umpires called it, too. Sound like a chorus.
Off speed, big, slow curveball in there for a strike to Jim Lindemann. Lindemann is a fellow who had a lot of problems last year, back spasms. In fact, he struck out 13 times more than he had hits, but it was usually because of a bad back. But he's got to do it this year for St. Louis.
Let me ask you a scientific question.
Yeah.
If you weren't gloves to bat, can your hands still be cold enough you have to blow into them with the gloves on?
No, I think that's a nervous thing.
Oh, okay.
Unless, you know, leather has a tendency to get slick. Maybe he feels the condensation of his breath will make the gloves hold on to the bat a little better.
It just looked funny, a guy
Yeah.
putting... Yeah. Let's see here.
No balls and 2 strikes to Jim Lindemann. He hit very close to 300.
Look at Oquendo.
Oquendo is at the ready.
Looked like a Bloody Mary.
0-2 the count to Jim Lindemann. Got him. Second strikeout for Fernandez. That's 29 consecutive scoreless innings for the Mets. A man is left at the end of an inning and a half, no score. It is cold in New York. How cold is it? It is that cold here at Shea Stadium in New York. However, the players are warmed not only by the rivalry between the Mets and the Cardinals, but they have also turned up the thermostat in New York with the New York Yankees. Billy Martin, and let's backtrack a bit. The Yankees were playing Toronto. Rafael Santana dropped what should have been a double play ball, apparently. Toronto went on to score 6 or 7 runs in the inning and killed the Yankees, scored 17 runs against them. Martin was angry at Santana about making the error. Some of the Mets who played with Santana last year were surprised and quoted as saying that's no way to treat Raffy, etc., etc. And it got hot. And finally, Billy Martin said this yesterday, talking about Strawberry, because they began to throw quotes back and forth like a ping pong ball. Martin said, I wouldn't want him on my club. He couldn't play for me. I wouldn't take him if they offered him for nothing. He isn't worth the price of my shoes. And Darryl Strawberry said, he can kiss my fill in the dash. So it has been getting hotter and hotter. And finally, in case they do have a date in the fall, Billy Martin said, I've had a lot better players in my time, and they all kept their mouths shut. Not like him. Hey, I got a left fielder who can play circles around Strawberry. He couldn't carry Ricky's shoes, etc., etc. And then he said he ought to just be glad he's not in this league, because, like I said, he'd be hitting from his back. Well,
Tell you what, he did 280 from his back.
you bet he would. So they got a lot going on here. No score, bottom of the second.
And it was such a simple statement that Strawberry made. I'm not taking up a case for anybody, but what he said was, if you're going to bench a player for every error, you're going to run out of players. And all of a sudden, here we go.
Well, you know, ball players are so sensitive about being shown up. And I'm sure managers are doubly sensitive since they take all the heat anyway. And Darrell is aboard with a walk.
You were talking about 30-30 players, 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. Howard Johnson, Darryl Strawberry, Joe McIlvain, Mets vice president, he says Strawberry could be a 50-50 player, 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. And that's a far cry from what a 50-50 player used to be. They'd always say he's a 50-50 player. He don't hurt you and he don't help you. But 50 stolen bases and 50 home runs is a real tribute to a player, and he can run.
Watch for the balk now, and you can bet there's a lot of heat on Magrane. He has committed 2 balks on opening day, each time with a runner at first and nobody out. He balked with Barry Larkin. He balked with Tracy Jones. Now he has Darryl Strawberry at first.
And they're 18-21 against him.
And a drive into left center field. Coleman McGee watching this ball go off the top of the wall. Strawberry is to third. They will hold him as Ozzie Smith has the ball ready to return it to the plate. It is interesting and should be noted because Kevin McReynolds is that kind of a player. In Montreal, Darryl Strawberry hit a home run that went, I don't know, 7,000 feet, right?
At least.
Nobody even remembers the fact that Kevin McReynolds hit a home run on the next pitch. All they talk about was Strawberry's home run.
McReynolds is really a cool, just a player.
I tell you how they are here in New York. The scoreboard is wrong. They stopped Strawberry at third, but the Mets have the run on the scoreboard already. That's going to tick people off. And the other thing is if you look at the scoreboard where they have the umpires at the bottom of the Mets lineup, that's another rather provocative thing here at Shea. We'll show it to you in a minute. 1 ball and no strikes to Gary Carter. Ball 2, 2-0. Take a look. You know how they list the umpires, right? They list the plate and first and second and third. The only time you use a left field and right field umpire is in the league championship and the World Series. And there they are waiting. Ground ball slowly with the runner Strawberry to score and the out recorded at first. McReynolds takes third, and they can now put that run up there. So Gary Carter with the infield back picks up the RBI.
That's another one of those little changes that have happened in baseball. It used to be when you were on second base, hey, make that ball be through, watch the runner in front of you, and all that kind of thing. Now they call it a contact play. As soon as that ball's on the ground, move. And they do.
And how? So it is 1-0 in favor of the Mets. Kevin McReynolds is now at third. Howard Johnson facing Joe Magrane. Johnson has been off to a very slow start, hitting only 138. No home runs, just 2 RBIs. Ball 1. I'm sure you would remember last year with Harry Wendelstedt, the plate umpire, Whitey Herzog asking for the bat because he felt it was corked. That was just another log on the bonfire that is building.
And then Johnson sent over a bunch of corks attached to the bat to the Cardinal clubhouse.
1 ball and no strike. I don't think Tom Wolfe was thinking about it, but it's a pretty good title, not just for his book, but of the rivalry. The Bonfire of the Vanities. The Mets and the Cardinals. This was Whitey's quote. He looked like Babe Ruth. I know he ain't that good. But boy, what a year he had. 2-0, the count to Howard Johnson. Johnson last year, 36 home runs and 99 runs batted in.
Johnson taking a good look. It's a 3-ball, no strike count. And with Elster coming up, he wanted to see if he had the green light to hit.
Strike. One of Hojo's better games last year was against the Cardinals in a 10-inning Mets victory. He had 4 hits, including the game-winning hit, a 2-run home run off Pat Perry. 3-1 the count to Howard Johnson, trying to pick up Kevin McReynolds. The infield halfway. 1 out. Ground ball hard to Ozzie. He's going to freeze McReynolds and throws a bubble over there, and Horner able to short hop it.
He talks about the fluid on his knee, but Ozzie's shoulder is not 100%. We have to watch him, and on a day like today, he just kind of flips it thinking he's got enough on it. He didn't really gun it over there, and he threw an infield fly.
So Horner makes a good play and a good save. 2 down on ground balls to Ozzie, 1-0 Mets. And the batter is Kevin Elster. You know, when you think about the Mets trying to win with a rookie shortstop, if you go back in the history books, you realize that it can be done. The 1970 Reds did it with a rookie by the name of Davey Concepcion. The Giants of '71 with Chris Spire. The Pirates of '74 with Frank Taveras. And the Dodgers of '85 with Mariano Duncan. So it can be done.
It can be done, especially if you've got a big lumber wagon, which the Mets have with guys like Hernandez, Strawberry, McReynolds, and Carter. That'll erase a lot of mistakes.
0-2 the count to Kevin Elster. Joe Magrane, trying to work his way out of a jam, has given up 1 run. Ball 1.
The thing that Magrane tried hard in the spring to do is to get some consistency with the fastball to where he can control both sides of that plate, inside and outside. A lot of times pitchers just do not like to come inside, and if a guy gets a base hit inside, they'll forget about it and just stay outside all day long, but he's moving it in and out.
Hot one to third, but another Gold Glove is right there. High throw, and he missed the bag coming down.
And we talked about his tender shoulder. Pendleton, when he came in after infield practice, you could see it, and he was really favoring that. There's no way with the good his arm sound that he's going to make that play. Now, he's got a lot of time. He comes up with the ball right now. Look, only 2 steps were taken. He had a day and a half, but he's going to Annie Oakley it over there, and look at it. He loops it. It just doesn't come down, and Horner tries to come down on the bag, but he's not exactly a graduate of Fred Astaire class of dancing. Horner at first base, so that's a big, big error.
A big error indeed, and remember, you are looking at the St. Louis Ball Club that has led the league in fielding 4 straight years. And the error is a painful error for Pendleton, and a second run coming over for the Mets. 2-0 New York, and now Sid Fernandez. Take another look at that throw. After watching Ozzie have trouble throwing, now Pendleton.
Look how much time he had. The Cardinals can't do that and win. No way.
Slicing fly ball down the left field line. Coleman is there and then can't get it at the last moment.
And his leg showed it on that one. He was very tentative getting over there. He's got the bad ankle, and you could see him just kind of reach and feel for that ball. The Cardinals cannot make mental mistakes. They can't give you more than 3 outs. Now watch, he's got plenty of room. Now he just kind of, he's just feeling for it. And he gingerly gets over near that line. That's not pennant-winning baseball.
Sid Fernandez needs a new bat. So Vince Coleman unable to handle a foul ball. A very shaky throw by Ozzie Smith, and then a throwing error charge to third baseman Terry Pendleton. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to Sid Fernandez. That's a strike. 1-2.
Tommy Herr is very outspoken and makes good points. He says for us to win, we have to have good defense, not make mental mistakes, and a running game. And I'll tell you, you've seen it today. There's a big chink in that armor.
And the Cardinals also have to get healthy. Fouled away. No, John Tudor, with knee and shoulder problems, has been on the disabled list. Although he pitched 5 innings Thursday for a spring training team. John joined the ball club yesterday. He'll throw on the side over the weekend. They really need him. And they need Ken Daly. Daly, plagued with a bad back, figures to join the Cardinals in May, which is what happened to him last year, coming off arm surgery. So the Cardinals aren't at full strength anyway. 3-2.
Whitey said he thought that they would use Tudor maybe next Saturday, unveiling them.
That shows you John Tudor getting only half a year last year. They got to get him healthy and turn him loose. And Sid Fernandez has walked.
Now that has to be put in the category of a mental mistake. You just don't walk the opposing pitcher, especially if he's batting left-handed and you're a left-handed pitcher. because now you got that top of the lineup up there, and the inning that should have been over with the ground ball by Elster is alive and a man in scoring position and the top of the lineup coming up.
So the batter now will be Mookie Wilson. Mookie Wilson grounded to short in the first inning. There's a note of irony here. Ball one. With Magrane walking Sid Fernandez, and Mike Rourke is going to go out to the mound so we have a chance to visit with him. When Magrane walked Sid Fernandez, because last year Sid Fernandez walked more pitchers than any other pitcher in the league. So this year he gets a free one.
Mike Rourke, when he talks about Magrane, he says he has a tendency to try to reach and throw harder than he can, which makes his ball get long on him. It's an expression. When you say, what do you mean get long on him? Well, he's overthrown is what he's doing. Reaching back and trying to get that extra, and it's just a case of settling him down. But I tell you, if there's one thing that disrupts a ball club and a manager more than walking the opposing pitcher, I don't know what it is.
That's right. You have the walk of the opposing pitcher. You have 2 walks in the inning. You also have an error on a play. So it's been a tough inning against Joe Magrane. 2-0 Mets. Late and foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. The run is for the Mets. Kevin Elster at second. Sid Fernandez at first. 2 down and 2 in. Ball 2. On deck, Tim Tuffle. Interestingly enough, the Cardinals and Mets played each other dead even last year, and each team did a little bit better in the other team's ballpark. They each won 5 of 9. The Cardinals here at Shea and the Mets at Busch Stadium in St. Louis.
Then when you stop to think that Red Barrett made 58 pitches to win a 9-inning game and realize that Magrane has made 31 pitches this inning, that tells you he's heading for big trouble.
Barrett was unusual. 2-2 with 2 out and 2 on and 2 in. Little roller foul.
I always felt that Red had tickets for the matinee. I always wanted to get out of there. Imagine that, 58 pitches for a 9-inning game.
Magrane wouldn't believe it. Deuce is wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on, 2 in. Magrane trying to get out of a jam. Mookie got that on the foot, and on a cold day like today, you will feel that down your family tree.
See, guys like Mookie wouldn't go for it, but they ought to have that steel toe like the workmen have. That got him right on the front foot. You saw it, and oh man, does that sting?
It's hard to believe that a baseball weighs about 5 1/4 ounces and can inflict such damage.
But I tell you, if he tops one down the third base line, it'd be like his feet are on fire. He'll fly down there.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Mets leading 2-0 in the second inning. Well, he's gone 3-2. That's a break, not just for Elster, but to get Sid Fernandez on the move.
Had to make it happen on 2-2. Those are the little mental mistakes that you keep talking about. You have to have your pitch of decision 2-2. Now both runners get at least 5 extra steps. That's a bonus.
Runners go, and there's a ground ball, stumbling block by Horner, and a sliding tag at first. What a play. It looked like a bowling alley on the right side of the infield. Bob Horner and Joe Magrane, who evidently got something in his eye. The Mets put 2 on the scoreboard on 1 hit. But look at this. First, it's Horner going down, and now on 1 knee to Magrane, who goes down. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Here's the play again. Horner, and they practice this so often in spring training, but they don't practice it like this. Magrane just barely gets a piece of it as he actually slides into the base.
What is it they say in the golf course? Hey, it ain't pictures, it's numbers. Well, the number was the 3rd out, although it wasn't very pretty. Joe Magrane will be following Steve Lake, and then it'll be Vince Coleman in the 3rd inning, with the Mets leading the Cardinals 2-0. So Lake playing for Tony Pena today. One ball and no strikes. Lake hit .318 against Mets pitching last year. He had 4 RBIs, so that's one reason why they jumped him in there against Fernandez. Lake was little known, didn't have that much of a chance to play, did not make an appearance in the league championship series with the Giants, but did pop up 3 times in the World Series. Went 1 for 3, had an RBI single in Game 7, and you might remember he made 2 putouts at the plate in Game 7, including a bone-jarring collision with Gary Gaetti, and that kept the score tied at 2-all. Of course, he's well put together, 6'1", 190-pounder. Steve Lake first came up with the Cubs. 3-1.
See Fernandez working on that mound, and Magrane likes to have it packed. They had the grounds crew out there packing it, and Fernandez will dig it out. That gets to be a problem when you have the opposite thoughts like that.
3-1. And probably banged to left, but it's going to carry to McReynolds. 1 down.
You see that McReynolds? I asked Dykstra about it. They took a fish and put it in McReynolds' baseball pants. Spring training is a practical joke. He looked in there, saw the fish, took it out, and just put it off to the side. Never said a word.
Kirk Gibson is a lot like that.
Yeah, he doesn't get upset at all, does he?
No, not at all. No. Here's Joe Magrane. Joe with a big rip, but there's a reason for it. Joe Magrane is the only Cardinal to hit a home run with a man on base this year, so he was really going after that first one. No balls, 1 strike.
Got to get some stickum now. There it is. Every time I see that rag, I wish some company would have the courage to use that on a detergent commercial. Get that rag clean. Watch that bat go flying. He really had some follow through.
That's that top hand. That right hand was really rolling. That was a home run swing. Of course, Joe is big enough to think home run. He is 6'6" and weighs in at 230. 1 ball, 1 strike. What a year Magrane had, a non-roster invitee. He was on the all-rookie team and started games 1 and 7 in the World Series. You want to talk about the honorable position. So a guy who went from a non-roster player to pitching game 1 and 7 in the World Series. That's about as big a ride as anybody could expect. 2-2 to Joe. He was a first-round draft pick back in '85. And he could be a whale of a pitcher before he's finished. He won 9 last year in his first year in the big leagues. So Magrane is caught looking. That's the 3rd strikeout for Sid Fernandez. And with 2 down in the 3rd inning, they're hanging S's. Last night, they were hanging K's like old days here at Shea for Dwight Gooden.
Left fielder.
You can see why Fernandez would get strikeouts. You've heard the expression ever since I've been in baseball, sneaky fast. He has a deliberate delivery, but when he gets to the top of it, he gives you that extra. And then that curveball seems to be out of the strike zone, and it'll break in there and literally freeze you in the batter's box.
The bunt attempt fouled into Carter Schmidt, and the count 0-1. His career high a few years ago, he struck out 14 in a game against the Giants.
Here's the delivery, and I mean it is deliberate, and all of a sudden, chow, he comes at you.
He had shoulder problems last year. 0-1.
Tell you, we haven't said anything, but Gary Carter is in as good a shape as I've ever seen a fellow from one year to the next. He said he just did an overhaul job, and he doesn't wear a drop of tape, and last year he'd come out, I mean, in the clubhouse, he looked like a mummy.
He's tired of being called an old man, that's why. 1-1. Foul back.
He said he got a 10,000-mile checkup. He played off of age. I really feel like he can catch 5 to 7 more years. And the way he looks and the way he feels, he can. He played off of Brenly's line when Brenly, the catcher of the Giants, said he felt like a used car. Carter said, I felt like a used camper.
He celebrated his 34th birthday on the 8th of April, so 34 years old.
But he's played a lot of games, and that's
Oh.
amazing. When you can play over 125 games in the big leagues, I think you're really doing a job.
Well, he first came up really as an outfielder with Montreal in 1974. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. Vince Coleman 0 for 1. He popped up to Howard Johnson.
Coleman had 44 infield hits last year. That tells you something about speed.
Boy, they really need him to get things
Yes,
going.
sir.
If Coleman isn't on the base paths, it is a different ball club. 2-2. Foul tipped. Check swing, and it got the wood anyway. Coleman can't believe it. That's 4 strikeouts for Sid Fernandez. 30 consecutive scoreless innings for New York. Darryl Strawberry is not stretching. He's trying to keep his hands warm. He will be the 3rd hitter due up here in the bottom of the 3rd. And the heater in the roof of the Mets dugout. And with his gloves on, he's still trying to warm them up. 2-0 the count at Tim Tuffle.
I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen guys put him in the sauna and they had it in the clubhouse.
Wait a minute. Magrane.
Magrane, maybe hurt. Gene Gieselman coming out.
Yep,
He
his
looks like
side.
he pulled something.
Oh, wow. In the cold weather, it is so difficult, A, to get loose, and it is even more difficult to stay loose.
His right side, and here comes Whitey, and I'm sure walking out and saying, what's next? What else is going to happen? He's walking right off.
Yeah. One thing, it is not his arm. You know, he was on the DL last year in May with a sore elbow, and he was out from the end of May till the 18th of June.
Well, he called time right now.
Yep.
It was a breaking ball, and he called time right now.
So you have an injured pitcher. That means that the replacement can take as much time as he desires before having to pick up. It also means if you're keeping score with the count 2 balls and no strikes, should the batter Tuffle walk, the walk would be charged to Magrane, so that if he indeed turned around and scored, that would also be charged to Magrane. And he's hurting a little bit as he looks for his windbreaker. Scott Arnold is going to come in and do the pitching. And for Magrane, that would be the earliest exit in his young career. And that's really a tough break. So I tell you what, we have a lot of time. And we'll be back with the Mets leading the Cardinals 2-0 in the 3rd right after this. This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. A reminder, after our game, stay tuned for the second half of today's baseball doubleheader. Some of you will see the red-hot New York Yankees take on the Milwaukee Brewers. Others will see Kirk Gibson and the Dodgers host the Atlanta Braves. That's next on NBC Sport. Boy, the Atlanta Braves and the Baltimore Orioles, they have not won a game yet, and the logical solution is if they don't win by tomorrow, then on Monday, the Braves should play the Orioles so somebody finally wins one.
I tell you, the way it's going, though, it'd be like an inter-squad game when you're going bad. It would finish in a tie because it would rain or something.
That would be the first inkling of interleague play, and it would be an emergency measure, right? Emergency measures are required here at Shea, 42 degrees. And the Cardinals, as the visitor, Terry Pendleton, a little downcast. His error contributed to 1 run. Plus, they lose their starting pitcher, Joe Magrane, and Lee Mazzilli, and members of the Mets just bundle up.
Watching Magrane leave, I couldn't help but chuckle, and I thought about Tommy John's great quote. Tommy John, in the game that he won, he hurt his ankle in the 1st inning, but he had a 5-run lead. And they said, "Are you going to leave?" And he said, "No way." He said, "They need a winch and a 4-wheel drive to get me out with a 5-run lead," and I don't blame him.
You know, in spring training, the Mets have an annual contest. It is held in the clubhouse. And with that in mind, Joe, why don't you lead us into the next piece of business?
Well, they had an ugly shirt contest, and Dave Cohn wore his regular shirt, and he won it, so they thought they'd have an ugly outfit contest, and Roger McDowell won it, and we're going to show you what Roger McDowell used to win that contest.
Hi, this is Roger McDowell of the New York Mets. Earlier this season, during spring training, we had an ugly shirt contest. This is the winning entry, a full outfit with designer shoes, black and white platforms, with the Salvation Army plaid pants. The shirt is a early drapery shower curtain design with maroon and white print, and it looks very becoming, and with the gold and the green lapel for St. Patrick's Day, and this was the winning entry.
Isn't that awful?
What's incredible is how come he still has it? What does he do, take it on the road in case he's going out to dinner?
I saw that thing in his locker, and I thought, oh, the truck's got to be coming in 20 minutes to get this. Maybe they turned it down. I don't know.
Roger McDowell, he's a case and a half anyway, isn't he?
He really is.
Oh, boy.
Perfect mentality for the relief pitcher. You know, Vin, with these Met pitchers doing what they're doing, it really is making Davy Johnson look pretty much like a prophet, because Davy said that this year our pitching alone is capable of overshadowing the Eastern Division, and he expects it to maybe even dominate the way they did 2 years ago. And all these shutouts, boy, it's making him look good.
We'll be back in a few seconds. As soon as Scott Arnold feels he's ready to go, we'll pick up in the third inning, 2-0 Mets. But now this.
NBC Studios in New York at the Astrodome in Houston. Top of the fifth inning of a scoreless game until Bo Diaz takes a Bob Nepper pitch over the left field wall. For Diaz, his third homer of the year, it gives the Reds and Mario Soto a 1-0 lead over the Astros. Now back to Shea.
Once again, the magic name of Mario Soto. He's got a shutout going in Houston, and you might remember he had his shutout against the Giants at Candlestick. So evidently Mario Soto is back, and I mean back. It is 2-0 in favor of the Mets from the bottom of the third inning. Tomorrow is an anniversary. The first game ever played at Shea Stadium in New York was April the 17th, 1964. The anniversary tomorrow. 10 years ago today was a very big day in the life of Robert Herbert Forge. Bob from Sacramento, pitching for the St. Louis Cardinals on this date in 1978. The Cardinals were at home against the Philadelphia Phillies, and Bob Forge pitched a no-hitter. That was the start of the season. That's Keith Hernandez, then a Cardinal. However, it was not a great year for Forge. Would you believe, after the no-hitter, later on he lost 9 in a row that year. He wound up winning 11 and losing 17. Scott Arnold, who was the new pitcher replacing Joe Magrane, was a non-roster player. Scott Gentry Arnold. He's been playing professionally since 1984. Went to Miami University of Ohio. He's from Lexington, Kentucky. He was 5th in the Texas League in strikeouts, so you can assume he throws fairly hard. And we'll see how he goes now. But remember, with the count 2 balls and no strikes, he's inheriting a situation left to him by Joe Magrane. Right.
I can think about 3 managers that, with the club losing and the fellow dressed like that on the bench, might be a little bit of an explosion there.
Oh, and how? 2-1. Ball 3.
Interesting that Tuffle is staying in the lineup. Wally Backman usually plays against right-hand pitching, but not this year.
Yeah, Tuffman has really taken charge of the position. And he walks. So that walk is charged to Magrane. So you can close the books as far as Magrane. 3 walks, 1 hit. But of course, should Tuffle score, he would belong to Magrane. And Keith Hernandez coming out.
Fernandez talked about last year. He said, you know, I felt stronger. I got happy with my strength. I had a chance to hit 20 home runs. I've always wanted to do that, and I was pulling the ball too much, so I had some lapses. My job on this club is to get base hits, doubles, and set the table for the big guys, Strawberry, McReynolds, and Carter. So you're going to see a different hitter this year. Won't be pulling as much, although he hadn't forgotten about pulling.
One thing about him last year, he hit much better in day games, fouled away. I mean, a big difference. He was a 270 hitter at night, but he hit 327 in the sunshine.
He's so bloody honest when you talk to him. He said, I just had lapses. Get 2 strikes on me. I didn't say, well, you got to come get me. I just wasn't concentrating. I said, how can you concentrate 162 games? He said, well, I did it better in other years.
0-1. I remember in the story in Esquire magazine where Strawberry ripped Hernandez for not really keeping his mind on the game, and Keith's only reply was, I got off easy. So I think he felt that Darryl was right in jumping on him. 1 ball and 1 strike to Keith Hernandez. Boy, the written word has really shaken up New York, hasn't it? I mean, not only Ozzie Smith that filtered over here, Darryl Strawberry, and how about Dave Winfield's book?
Well, Steinbrenner jumped it right on the bestseller list.
I was just going to say, you've got a new book out.
Yeah, but I wish somebody would make it controversial. It's not kiss and tell, though.
Isn't there anything in there that Steinbrenner might hate and he could blast your book?
Come on, George, do me a favor.
2-1 to count to Hernandez. Runner going, ground ball to first, smothered there by Horner for the out.
Hernandez kind of looked up at the sky because had Horner been quicker, which you would expect a better fielder to be, that ball would have been a 2-base hit, but he doesn't get off the bag hardly at all, half a step. And you can see it was a hit and run play because Tuffle's looking to see where that ball goes, and Horner was right there.
Darryl Strawberry with a runner at second base and 1 out.
2-0 ball game now, Vin. Strawberry can hit that ball a mile. You got McReynolds coming up next. Would you give him a ball to hit?
No. No way.
He'd have to widen the zone.
1 ball and no strikes to count to Darryl Strawberry. You know, it's interesting you mentioned about would you give him a ball to hit as to whether managers give up the intentional walks or not. Apparently this one is, we're just not going to give you a strike. Maybe. 2-0.
Well, he shouldn't now with a 2-ball, no strike count.
Those are the batting averages with men in scoring position. Interesting, no one hitting 300. Now they're going to walk him after figuring, okay, maybe he'll go fishing on a couple. He wouldn't bite, so they put him aboard. That means the Mets have received 4 walks in 2 1/3 innings. And in a moment, Kevin McReynolds coming up. Strawberry had 2 home runs and a half a dozen RBIs and hit well over 300 against the Cardinals last year. So it didn't figure that they would challenge him in this spot. Of course, Kevin McReynolds is no walk in the park. He hit 328 against the Cardinals, but no home runs. Kevin did have 11 runs batted in against St. Louis in 15 games.
Kevin just wants to live the normal life. Go out and play a game of baseball and do the best he can. He lived in Long Island, went into Manhattan twice all year.
Tuffle at second, Strawberry at first, 1 away in the 3rd. Mets 2, Cardinals nothing. The Cardinals getting another bad break in the early going of 1988. Joe Magrane hurting his side. We assumed he pulled something around the rib cage on the right side. And so Whitey's plans are ruined as Magrane has to go out. And Scott Arnold picking up. High fly ball to shallow right. Jim Lindemann is coming, still coming, still coming. It's going to land. They will hold and then send the runner in, and Tuffle will score.
He was looking for help all the way, and that's bad baseball. He really surrounded that ball. That ball should have been caught. You can see that he is really chagrined out there, and it was easy for Tuffle to score. He was 3/4 of the way down to 3rd base, and the throw goes into 2nd base, but no way to get Strawberry. Now he's looking for help. There he is looking for Tommy Herr, and that ball is off to the side and behind him. I mean, he wasn't close to making that play.
And all I can think of is with all of his pain and misery in the dressing room, Joe Magrane is charged with that run. A walk where he only made 2 pitches, and now a run charged against him on a fly ball that might have been caught. So it is 3-0 Mets. The Cardinals, at least for the moment, not looking like that great defensive team of last year, not even close.
And that goes as a base hit. I mean, that ball should have been caught. Maybe have one of those team error things, but that, well, it should have been caught. Enough said.
So McReynolds at first, Strawberry at second. The runner's going, and they're going to pull off the double steal. The ball slipped out of Steve Lake's hand. He caught it a second time, but had no chance to throw.
You start to take things for granted, and you're going to end up in the second division, and these Mets are not taking anything for granted. They saw an opening. Arnold wasn't paying that much attention. Strawberry took off, and McReynolds just trailed to play. He didn't even look at him. And Lake tries to make the throw, comes out of the glove, and the Mets are just forcing the hand.
In at the knuckles. Though he's one pitch away from loading him up, Howard Johnson is on deck. Arnold pitched on April 11th, and he balked in 2 runners from third.
And Carter took a good look at Palazzo at third base. Imagine me butchering that name.
Yeah. There he walked him, and the bases are loaded. That's 5 walks given to the Mets in 2 1/3 innings. 5 walks, a Cardinal error, and a ball that was not played. And Mike Rourke is heading for the mound again. There is no one throwing in the Cardinal bullpen, so he's not bringing a hook. He's going out to try and settle young Scott Arnold down. Vince Coleman is going to use the time and come in to get sunglasses. And the Cardinals begin now to get somebody up back there in left field. Larry McWilliams, a left-hander.
McLeod. He looks like McLeod.
It is 3-0 Mets. You know, an interesting thing about the Cardinals, and Seymour Seawolf's gang came up with it. If you want to talk about a big inning, that would be where you allow 4 runs or more in an inning. The Cardinals last year allowed the fewest big innings in the major leagues. So they are trying to hold on to that shred of last year as the Mets have loaded the bases with 1 out and they have a run in already.
Cardinals just didn't give you more than 3 outs, and the baseball ball's in the air. That's been it.
Howard Johnson. Ground ball to the right side as Tommy Herr going to Ozzie Smith. Back to Horner. Double play. And the Cardinals come back with what they are so good at, coming up with a clutch double play. And the Mets wind up with 1 run, and that was a gift. And at the end of 3, it's 3-0 New York.
Said the double play, and watch a couple things. Watch her show Ozzie Smith that ball right there. Good look at it. Ozzie gets it, let her high, able to get out of the way and on to first base. Close, but got him.
You know, it's interesting, too. I was mentioning Seymour Seawolf of the Elias Bureau, and one of the things they point out in their analysis of the Cardinals, and it was very evident there, if you take double play opportunities defensively and then figure out how many times you can cash in the double play, that's an insight into a ball club. And the Cardinals were the best in the major leagues in cashing in the double play opportunities. And sure enough, with their backs to the wall in the 3rd inning, the prospects of being blown out of the game, they come up with a double play. Slow breaking ball.
And they stay away from it when they got the bat in the hand. At least that is when they're winning.
Ozzie struck out in the 1st inning, and that's really news. Although he's a better hitter left-handed than right anyway. At least the averages would indicate that. 3-1.
Then the Cardinals have actually 4 game plans. One is built on speed. The second one, Horner hits a home run. The third one, they squeeze in the run. And the 4th one, they let the pitching take over. That is according to Vince Coleman. I think he's right.
And there's ball 4, so we'll see the speed perhaps being used now. That is the 2nd walk given up by Fernandez. And remember, when he walked Pendleton, he proceeded to balk him to second base.
He was on the bench a long time with Magrane's injury. I doubt if he was on the bench, probably in the clubhouse staying warm. But all in all, he had a chance to cool off. So maybe it had an effect on him. We'll see. That base on balls doesn't augur well.
The Cardinals must be angry at themselves. They're trailing 3-0, but in all honesty, had they played even reasonably well, it would be 1-0. The error by Pendleton that gave the Mets a run, and that fly ball that dropped in front of Lindemann. 3 runs, 2 hits for New York. No runs, no hits for the Cardinals in the 4th inning. Mets pitchers have rolled along 30 consecutive scoreless innings. The club record, 42. 1 ball and no strikes.
Fernandez has faced 11 batters. He's gone to 3 balls on 5 of the 11. pitching behind. When you're pitching behind, you're usually pitching behind in the clubhouse in the 8th and 9th innings.
1-0 the count. Bob Horner on deck. Down 3-0. It's questionable that Ozzie would run, but with Tommy Herr up there, he could very well be going as part of a hit-and-run play. Promptly hit over the head of Kevin Elster into left center for a base hit. Mookie Wilson up with the ball. So a walk followed by a base hit, and the Cardinals are in business now. Bob Horner coming up, representing the tying run.
Bob Horner.
And this is what they got the big guy for, to come up there with one sock, put you back in that ball game. One sock here, he could tie it up.
Bob Horner, when he made his major league debut way back in 1978, he hit a home run in his first major league game. He hit it against Bert Blyleven. One ball and no strikes to Horner. Bob will be 31 in August. Fouled away, out of play.
Last guy to hit 4 home runs in one game, Bob Horner. He didn't do that in Japan, did he?
No. A couple of years ago.
He did it here, I know.
One ball, one strike. Off speed, ball 2, 2-1. Sid Fernandez in his first jam, and it comes here in the 4th inning. A walk and then the first base hit that he's allowed.
Gets the ground ball, he's got a chance to get the double play, but he's got a lot of power up there.
High pop fly back of first. Pete Hernandez making the catch. The infield fly rule called, and we have one away. That'll bring up Willie McGee. McGee grounded out in the 2nd inning, so Willie is 0 for 1.
Hernandez constantly talking to Fernandez, staying on him, making sure he concentrates. He's one of the captains, but he does it on the field. I mean, he feels like that's where you do it.
McKee didn't have much luck with the bat against the Mets last year. He hit in the 230s against Mets pitching. Willie hit 285 last season with 105 runs batted in. He had never hit more than 82. 1-0. Sneak that fastball inside. Ball 2, 2-0. Of course, McGee last year was coming back off knee surgery. He finished among the leaders in the National League in RBIs, hits, and triples. Two and one.
He really challenged him. I was kind of halfway looking for a curveball because he was messing with the fastballs, but Gary stayed right with it, and he just blew it right on by him. 2 balls, no strikes. Fastball. Good one.
Boy, what a World Series he had. Do you remember in the World Series as a right-handed batter, he hit .545 and he hit .400 in the Metrodome. Willie McGee. 2-2. So after looking at Dwight Gooden's fastball, they're getting a totally different look. Instead of the high hard one, Sid Fernandez really has a low hard one so far.
And that delivery, once again, very deceptive.
Got him.
2 fastballs down, and then got the fastball out of the strike zone, and McGee chased it. 5 strikeouts.
5 Ks. You know, when you think about it, the Cardinals were shut out only 4 times last year. They were shut out by right-handers. Then you remember in the league championship, Dave Dravecky shut him out. And last night, Dwight Gooden blanked them. Fernandez with 2 out in the 4th inning, leading 3-0.
You can see why it'd be tough to shut out, because they manufacture runs better than any team in baseball. Base on balls could turn out to be a triple with their speed.
Fouled away, 0-1. Pendleton drew a walk in the 2nd inning, was balked at second base. Oh, look at that difference, huh? Talk about a man coming of age in the pressure position. Smith at second, Herr at first. 2 down, Pendleton at the plate, and the Mets leading 3-0. Oh, and 2.
Fernandez is one of those pitchers you go back to the bench and you say, he looks good to hit. He hasn't got that much. And you put your bat in the rack.
Yeah, right.
Goes on all afternoon. A comfortable collar he hangs on you.
With 5 strikeouts, he's trying for number 6, and the crowd has come alive now. 0-2. Bouncer over his glove. He should have made that play. Backed up by Tuffle, who throws to Johnson, but the runner, Ozzie Smith, holding. I don't know whether Fernandez lost the ball, but a good fielding pitcher would have handled that. It went right over his glove.
It was his follow-through that really got him all tied up. He really should have had that ball. He was still coming down with that left leg like he was posing for the bubblegum card and just couldn't make the play. He wasn't set to where he could move either way. Tuffle, hustling all the way, saves the run. But watch him. He's all tied up. That ball should have been caught.
And then he kind of flinched. Tuffle makes a saving play as far as a run. So with the bases loaded, Jim Lindeman at the plate with 2 down. Wow, that thing almost went to the backstop. That was a fine save by Gary Carter. I think it was a case of Fernandez throwing beyond himself as opposed to pitching, and Carter held both hands up, so say, whoa, big boy, take it easy. Fernandez pitching out of a stretch with 2 out on the bases loaded.
I think that's dangerous with the balk situation being what it is.
2-0 the count.
If he goes into his full windup, he doesn't have to worry about that balk, but now he's got to concentrate on stopping. Unless he insisted on it, I'd make my pitcher go with the full windup. Ozzie's not going anywhere.
Mel Stottlemyre, Davy Johnson, and they're watching him, but neither one suggesting the windup. 2-0 to Lindeman. And he lost his hat while falling behind 3-0.
Gary's got to go out and talk to him now, because that ball getting by him distracted him. The hat, somebody's got to stop him. Fernandez said something to him.
You know, losing the cap might not have been the wind either. In other words, it might very well have been an imperfection in his delivery, where he's trying too hard, and it's hard to really say from that angle. But sometimes you lose your cap not because the wind blew it off your head.
See how dejected he looked.
And there's ball 4, and he's forced in a run.
Yeah, you got to have a meeting now, no doubt about it. He should have been out of the inning. Here comes Stottlemyre.
So Ozzie Smith brings in the run, and everybody else moves up 90 feet. Tommy Herr goes to 3rd. Pendleton goes to 2nd, and Lindeman picking up the RBIs at 1st.
What the pitcher has to do in a situation like that, he has to get that strikeout and take it upon himself, because he really should have been out of the inning on a ground ball by Pendleton. Tuffle saves the run by making the play, and then he gives it right back.
What kind of a day is it? We're in the 4th inning. There have been 8, count them, 8 bases on balls. Fernandez committed 3 walks, Magrane 3, Arnold 2. And here's Steve Lake. Strike. Tommy Herr is at 3rd. Terry Pendleton at 2nd. Jim Lindeman at 1st. Mets 3, Cardinals 1.
3 2/3 innings. Fernandez has made 73 pitches.
Tony Pena is out on deck to hit for Scott Arnold. Fly ball down the right field line. The wind should push that thing back into the crowd, and does. Larry McWilliams, you saw earlier, throwing in the bullpen. And with Pena out on deck, Whitey will make his move if he has the opportunity. It'll be up to Steve Lake. 2 strikes. Little pop fly on the right side. Tuffle. And now in front of him is the rookie, and the ball drops, and both runs score to tie up the game. And the rookie stuck his finger in the pie.
It's time to put the beer keg on each base because that's the way they're playing. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Major League. Tuffle looked like he called it all the way, Vin.
Yeah, it was Tuffle's play. The only thing that was the problem, the wind, which is blowing from left to right. And I think Elster, looking at the ball, suddenly found himself going across the line between second and short. He's over on the second base side now.
It wasn't that high. I think Michael Jordan could have just reached up and plucked it down. And it was not a tough play. But they're human, but it was, we've seen some botched up plays.
Yep. 3-3 tie. Elster will get the error, and 2 runs will score. No run batted in, of course.
We've had 1 solid hit this inning. That one by her.
Tony Pena now will hit for Scott Arnold. Tony, who went to eyeglasses last year, and then this year, he is no longer the familiar figure behind the plate. Remember how he used to go into such a severe crouch, one leg would be flat on the ground? Whitey has moved him out of that to what you could say an orthodox crouch. Last year was ruined when he broke his left thumb. He was hit by a pitch in his first return to his old haunting grounds at Pittsburgh. 0-2.
And Whitey's got 3 catchers, so he can't afford to pinch hit Pena.
During the league championship series, Pena led the club. He hit 381 and then hit 409 in the World Series. So the glasses must have been a big help. 1-2 to Tony Pena.
You know, you're look at this inning and say, well, that error, that was a big play, but it was the base on balls to Lindemann. You have no control over base on balls. That's the bad piece of baseball. The other one you could almost accept. It was bad and there was no excuse for it, but it happens.
Well, 2 on, 2 out, and a 1-2 pitch to Pena. Hit down the right field line, foul, and out of play. So the Mets got 2 in the second and 1 in the third, and the Cardinals have come back with 3 in the fourth to tie it up.
Well, we talked about them manufacturing runs. I mean, it might have been the night shift, but they manufactured it.
For Herzog, he's seen his Cardinals stumble coming out of the gate. They've lost 6 out of the first 9. 1-2. Off speed. 2-2. Boy, he's pitching a ball game here.
Made a lot of pitches, and that off-speed pitch, he's not had that all day. Gary Carter keeps looking for it. He keeps calling for it when he can. But Fernandez has not had that pitch.
The only good thing is he's throwing it for a ball.
It's out of the strike zone.
You have Lindemann at second and Lake at first. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 3 in. Cardinals and Mets all even. Sid has now made 80 pitches, 31 this inning. Two and 2. Fouled away.
There's no way he's going to finish this game with that number.
The other day, and it's kind of early for that kind of a game, Fernando Valenzuela pitched the distance and lost to San Diego, and he was over 150 pitches. That's a lot of pitches, especially this early in April, huh?
Anytime. That's an exception to the rule, because they watch him here. When they start to get to 90s, they worry. 115, 110, that's the spot.
Fly ball into left field. Kevin McReynolds says he has it, and he does. But the Cardinals have 3 runs, and young Kevin Elster, growing a little bit older every day in his position at shortstop, all even at 3. The Major League Baseball game of the week is brought to you by Toyota. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? Well, let's face it, it's very early in the 1988 season, and for that matter, so far, this looks like a very, very early season game.
It looks like a spring training game where you might bring in some of the extra players. Ben, I have a book here to show you how baseball is growing everywhere, especially in Japan. Here's the stats book, which they gave me to use. I can't use it. You want it?
Well, it's the 1988 Baseball Digest version, I guess, in Japan, which reminds me that baseball is really spreading. You know, in 1992, baseball will become a fully accredited Olympic sport, and there are amateur federations all around the world. In fact, in Vero Beach, we had representatives from Korea, Japan, Mexico, and the Soviet Union.
I remember when I was doing a pregame show, we had the Italian baseball. It was pretty good, and the Netherlands had a pretty good team. It's great to see. I'd be glad to see the Russians get into it, and they did well in hockey. How fast will they learn baseball?
Well, the man said, and I don't know his name, but what the man said in Florida was, we didn't know anything about hockey, and we were a gold medalist in 9 years, so they have their cap set for baseball. I guess, in all honesty, had they seen what's taken place here today, they figured they'll catch up in a hurry.
They'll challenge. And as always, you make an error, you lead off the inning.
Kevin Elster to Ozzie Smith, and the kid is thrown out by the veteran. Let's get a baseball update. We'll go across the river to New York.
Interesting play at Wrigley Field. Pittsburgh's Sid Bream with a hardliner that hits umpire Jerry Crawford on the foot. Bobby Bonilla comes around to score, but he'll be sent back to second. The ruling, the ball hit Crawford before an infielder had a chance to make the play. Pirates are playing the game under protest. It's scoreless. Cubs and Pirates, top of the third. Now back to Shea.
Our thanks to Jimmy Cephalo for the update. With one away here in the fourth inning, a 3-3 tie. Sid Fernandez followed by Mookie Wilson. Fernandez walked in the second inning. I would guess if you took all the bad plays and put them and withdrew them from the game, it would be 1-0 in favor of the Mets. Instead, it's 3-3 in the fourth.
Young Elster, he's got growing pains right now because when you have a play like that, big crowd, you want to get out of that batter's box as soon as you can, make your first ball hitter, which is what he did.
Look at here. Sid Fernandez walks twice as Larry McWilliams lets him get away. That is the 6th walk, as you see Kevin Elster. 6 walks given to the Mets and 9 walks in the game.
And when you see him like that, you know, no one can really help him. He's got to battle out of it all alone. It's up to you. And his credentials are too good. He'll look back at this, but hey, that's all part of being a big leaguer.
Time for the moment. Sid Fernandez putting on the heavy windbreaker. And now he's ready. Mookie Wilson grounded out and then was out on quite a play. Bob Horner coming up with the ground ball, stumbling, and then throwing to Joe Magrane, who slid into the bag to get him. So Mookie's 0 for 2. 3-3, bottom of the fourth. Good pitch. Big motion, took a lot off it. Mookie way out in front.
He gives you a herky-jerky delivery, and it kind of just fooled Mook. Not kind of. It did fool him completely. He started to swing and just couldn't pull the trigger.
Fly ball to right field. Lindemann started in. 2 down. Once again, we remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. So Mookie Wilson a fly ball for the 2nd out, and now Tim Tuffle. Tuffle is back to the box and walked. Made an excellent play on the infield single of Pendleton to prevent a run from scoring. Then had Elster bump into him, and some people booed him. Who apparently don't quite understand the situation.
Well, all they know was an error, 2 runs scored, and he was part of it.
1 ball and no strikes to Tim Tuffle, 0 for 1. Off to a very slow start with the bat, hitting only 120. Right. 1-1. course, Tuffle can sit down and talk to Kevin Elster about tough errors. Especially if you want to talk about the World Series. With a ground ball that went through his legs, and the Mets lost 1-0.
How he stayed in that clubhouse and just let wave after wave of reporters ask him the same question. Really showed what he was made of. Hey, anybody can feel the good hop. What he's going through now, sure, groin pains, we have a lot.
Fouled away, 2-2. The third Cardinal pitcher working today is Larry McWilliams, because Joe Magrane appeared to have perhaps pulled muscles on the right side of the rib cage. Larry was signed as a free agent the middle of February. He was on the Pirate roster last year. Then with Atlanta and was released. Base hit into right field for Tuffle. Fernandez will stop at second, and Keith Hernandez will be the batter.
Here's a spot that Hernandez is really tough. Men in scoring position, the left-hand pitcher, he seems to wait on the ball and try to hit it from the middle to the left field line. Put it in play, he says.
Hernandez, a couple of ground balls. But it's different because he had 2 at-bats against 2 different pitchers. He grounded to second in the first inning against Magrane, and grounded to Horner when Horner probably took an extra base hit away from him. That was against Arnold. Right.
He didn't have a batting glove on the first 2 times. He likes to hit with a kind of a donut, and then he's gone to a batting glove. May have some padding inside. He's got that gash on the back of the left hand.
2 balls and no strikes to count. In fact, we'll check that, make it 1-1. It's 3-3 tie. We're in the 4th inning with 2 out. Tuffle at first, Fernandez at second. Cardinal pitchers have already given up 6 walks in 3 2/3 innings. Time. Two the count.
That's the best fastball he's thrown since he's been in there. He's not had real good control of that curveball, but he blew that one by Hernandez.
If Keith would be able to handle that pitch, he would have had to hit it to left field. And another one, and he goes with it.
He gives up a little bit when he's got 2 strikes to put that ball in play. Most good hitters will do that.
Keith Hernandez, it's hard to believe that he was traded by the Cardinals to New York 5 years ago. Last year for Hernandez was a bad year in one respect for sure. It was the first time in his big league career that he struck out 100 times.
He said that's too much. He was trying to hit that home run, trying to hit 20 home runs.
3-2. The runners go, and there's a ground ball to Horner. Bob will wave McWilliams away. No runs, 1 hit and 2 left. It remains 3-3 at the end of 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. The 5th inning here at Shea Stadium in New York in a 3-3 tie. Other scores, Texas leading Boston 1-0, bottom of the 7th inning. Cincinnati on a home run by Bo Diaz, and what's important about that, Mario Soto has Houston shut out, working on his 2nd of the season. Minnesota leading Toronto 1-0 in the bottom of the 4th. And Detroit leading Kansas City. In fact, you better check that score. I think it's reverse. Pittsburgh, Chicago, no score. Here in the ballpark, we have Kansas City leading Detroit. Right. Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, and Tommy Herr in that order. Coleman has popped up and struck out. Vince 0 for 2. Now we double check, and the scoreboard at Shea is incorrect, and the score we gave you is correct. Detroit 2, Kansas City 1 in the 7th. 1 ball, 1 strike. High drive into deep left field. McReynolds going back on the track at the wall. Leaps it, is gone. Home run for Vince Coleman, his first home run of the year.
And that is news when Cardinals hit home runs, and they get home runs from leadoff men like Coleman and Smith because they're usually on base. But he hit that ball hard, and he's just broken a 3-3 tie.
He hit 3 home runs last year, did Vince. And let's take another look at it for the Vince Maurice Coleman Marching and Chowder Society.
In fact, it looked like Johnson thought the ball was going to get caught. He pointed in the air to help McReynolds. McReynolds thought he could make a play as Ozzie fouls off the first pitch.
So it is 4-3 St. Louis as Vince Coleman gets the Cardinals well with 1 swing of the bat. One and 1.
Fernandez will be over 90 pitches by this inning, and that's a lot of pitches.
Off speed, but he missed with it. Ball 2, 2-1. So Vince Coleman, who hit his first home run outside the ballpark, it was against Houston when he actually cleared the fence. That's fouled away. When he did that last year, the end of August against Houston, he had 1,914 career plate appearances before actually hitting the ball out. And now today he hits one out. Terry Pendleton telling him how to drive that ball. 2-2. Foul back. So the Mets led 2-0, 3-0. Then it was tied, and now the Cardinals lead.
They'll be watching Vince Coleman closely because it's ironic when a fellow like that hits a home run. After that, they'll try for a couple. They'll go into a little bit of a slump. So hitting coaches will watch that.
And we're also watching the Mets bullpen where David Cone begins to loosen up on the corner. So that's rather historic that Ozzie Smith would strike out twice in a game. Let's get another update and go to Jimmy Cephalo.
Vinny Joe, there's been a change at the Astrodome in Houston. The Reds and Astros were tied at a run apiece in the bottom of the 7th. When Alan Ashby singled back through the box, that brought Glenn Davis around. Jose Rijo replaced Mario Soto. It's 2-1 Houston as they go to the 8th. Now back to Shea.
And a strike to Tommy Herr. 4-3 St. Louis. Tommy Herr today flied to right, single to center, came around to score a run. He was one of the 2 coming home when Kevin Elster bumped into Tim Tuffle. And Herr a line single to left. So Tom is 2 for 3. That's only the 4th hit for the Cardinals. So they're getting the maximum out of the minimum. 4 runs on just 4 hits. There's David Cone. Bob Horner is the hitter with 1 out in the 5th inning, and the Cardinals leading 4-3. We were talking before about all the reasons why the Cardinals feel that Horner will certainly be able to fill Jack Clark's shoes even if he doesn't hit as many home runs. He does figure to drive in as many or more runs. One reason is he's a contact hitter. Last year, Jack Clark struck out every 3rd at bat. 1 out of 3 at bats. In his career, Horner strikes out 1 in 7 at bats. And anytime with those rabbits on the base paths, if he can just make contact, they're in business, and they're in business now. And Tommy Herr's gone to 3rd. Mookie Wilson's throw is not in time.
They'll 1st and 3rd you to death. That's what they can do, and they will do it. And as you say, Horner will give you that kind of contact because Jack Clark, in fact, before the game in Whitey's office, that's what they were talking about with a number of strikeouts.
Right.
Tuffle gave it a good effort. Tommy Herr, he doesn't need any coach to help him. He saw that ball was in front of him, and he took off, didn't hesitate.
So the Cardinals have runners at 1st and 3rd. Gary Carter kind of looked over immediately after the base hit to the Mets bench. So David Cone, I'm sure, has been told to bear down. It's only a matter of time.
He's had 6 strikeouts, but he's only had 1 real pitch going for him, that fastball.
Willie McGee has grounded out and struck out, and he has a chance to chase Fernandez. Sid, meanwhile, is trying to hang on. That's a little surprising that McGee would hit into so many double plays with his speed. 0-1. 0-2. It also meant that every time he came up, there were people aboard. Horner at first, Herr at third, 4-3 St. Louis in the 5th inning. Fouled away. Carter couldn't hold it.
You can see Carter in working him didn't even fool with the curveball out of the strike zone. McGee is known to chase the curveball, the bad one, with 2 strikes, and he just went with the fastball and threw it for a strike. When he got McGee the last time, that's a strike if he takes it, but he made McGee chase a bad high fastball. So they're going to go after him with strikes.
0-2.
Got
him. So that's the 7th strikeout for Sid Fernandez. And with first and third, he has struck out Ozzie Smith twice and Willie McGee twice.
An identical pitch on McGee, that high fastball. The one that he wanted to hit McGee was that one he foul tipped. Surprised they went after him with the strike, with the 2-strike, no-ball count, but he kind of went up that ladder a little bit and got him.
Well, now here's Terry Pendleton, walked and singled up the middle. Terry 1 for 1. 1-0. Tommy Hurd down the line from third. Bob Horner at first. 2 out in the 5th inning. Cardinals 4, Mets 3. As Whitey said, September games in April. Fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Pendleton committing a throwing error because of his painful right shoulder. Now trying to atone with the bat. 1-1.
That curveball, I mean, he left that back at the hotel or somewhere.
And you know, the break seems to be way out in front of the plate. The ball breaks and then just, it's like the earliest breaking curveball and then nothing. Look at that.
Well, it's squibbing out. He's not riding it. He's not able to ride it in there and take the bite. Usually when he's got that good curveball, that's what makes that fastball so effective, because you think it's not going to be a strike, and it is.
2-1. Fastball, boy. I tell you, on a cold 42 degrees, he has brought a heater. He's got 7 strikeouts. And the count 2-2 to Terry Pendleton.
And especially with this new strike zone, it is not a strike. That one was especially out. That had been out of the strike zone 20 years ago. But, I mean, the high fastball has been his best pitch.
2-2. Curve down the line, and Fernandez backed off the rubber. So Tommy Hurt trying to put the screws to him a little bit and upset his concentration. Maybe even get him to balk. 2-2 to Pendleton. Fouled away.
Another high fastball.
The runner at first does not figure to put any pressure on Sid Fernandez. Bob Horner. Horner has stolen 2 bases in the last 5 years, and that includes Japan. So he's one Cardinal that doesn't fly. But Tommy Hurt down the line at third, and Pendleton checking with Nick Leyva. 2-2. Got him on a fastball that looked like it was out of the strike zone.
High fastball once again. They're just not swinging at strikes, and Fernandez able to get off the hook.
And he got off the hook by striking out the side, but it's 4-3 St. Louis. A cold day in New York, and perhaps getting a little colder. It was 42 a little while ago. It's now 39. You see that sign?
Can't believe that sign, man.
Here's the one guy who might be able to do it, Darryl Strawberry, who has walked twice.
The sign's got to be 220 feet atop the scoreboard.
1 ball and 1 strike to count.
Look at it.
In the upper right-hand corner of that scoreboard, it says, hit this sign and we'll paint your house. Little chin music to the screen, 2 balls and 1 strike.
Hit that sign, they ought to give you a house, not paint it.
There was a great baseball cartoon in the New Yorker magazine. It was based on the true sign that was in Ebbets Field. That's not going to the sign. It's to dead center. And McGee makes the over-the-shoulder catch look easy. What a wonderful play by Willie McGee. And Strawberry hits a 410-foot out.
Not only was that ball hit deep, it was hit hard, so hard that it knuckled out there, and Willie McGee really made it look easy. He feels that warning track, knows he's got a little bit of room, and just makes the catch into that big glove, and that's it.
Boy, something.
Hey, he just makes it look so easy.
So 1 away, Kevin McReynolds the batter. A strike, 0-1. Terry Leach throwing in the Mets bullpen. There was a cartoon in the New Yorker magazine, and it's now in their album of sports cartoons, and it showed old Ebbets Field, and there was a sign at the base of the right field wall. It was very hittable. Hit this sign and win a free suit of clothes. But what made the cartoon so funny, it showed the right fielder, and behind him was the merchant with a glove to make sure it wouldn't hit the wall. 1-1. Fly ball to right field, and Jim Lindemann is there.
I'll tell you, they had a sign in the old Kansas City ballpark because it was 2 fences. They had the fence and then maybe like a 100-foot slope and another fence, and in deep right center field, you could barely see it with binoculars. The guy said, hit this sign and get a diamond ring.
There's Kerry Leach down in the bullpen with 2 down in the 5th inning, 4-3 Cardinals. Cone is down there with him throwing once in a while, and Leach is trying to catch up to him. Carter with Howard Johnson on deck. 4 runs, 5 hits, 1 error for the Cardinals, 3 runs, 3 hits, 1 error for the Mets.
He doesn't look like McLeod to me on a close-up. He really does.
Larry McWilliams.
Look at him.
Ball 3. In case you aren't with us, Joe Magrane started for the Cardinals. Apparently pulled some rib cage muscle on the right side, or at least felt it, and had to come out. Then it's been Arnold and now McWilliams. That's in there. 3-2 to Gary Carter. 2 out in the 5th inning. 4-3 St. Louis. Fly ball to McGee. Willie had to come like a halfback on that, kind of bobbing and weaving because the wind is swirling so much. But on 3 fly balls, the Mets are done in the 5th. We're going to the 6th inning. The Cardinals leading the Mets 4-3. David Cone is the new pitcher coming out of the Mets bullpen. We have a chance to remind you, tomorrow Sports World brings you the exciting finals of the Superstars competition. Dallas Cowboy star Herschel Walker and track and field's Ronaldo Nehemiah. Just 2 of the stars vying for the title. Tomorrow on NBC Sports World. And don't forget, when our game is done, stay tuned for the second half of today's baseball doubleheader. Some of you will see the red-hot Yankees take on the Brewers. Others will see the Dodgers and the Braves. That's next on NBC Sports. Sid Fernandez went out with a flourish. He struck out the side, winds up striking out 8, but can only lose. He went 5 innings and allowed 4 runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, and the 8 strikeouts. So David Cone will pick up for him.
Been just a point that McWilliams at 5th inning is just a little bit more important than getting 3 easy outs, because when you take a lead, and the lead they took was on the home run by Coleman, McWilliams was able to just shut him down and not get any kind of an answer or a whimper, and that really picks up a ball club, because if you've been with us with the errors and the base on balls, the Cardinals have had to manufacture runs and scratch and claw. It looked like the Mets were going to blow it open, and the Cardinals came up with a double play, and now that they've taken the lead, McWilliams gives them such a strong inning as if to say, this is our game.
Well, he's a 10-year man. He has a lot of experience. He first came up with Atlanta in 1978. You might remember he had some pretty good years with Pittsburgh. Larry McWilliams. But right now it's David Cone. Cone battling Lindemann, Lake, and the pitcher's spot. Good breaking ball. Cone's 25 years old and established himself pretty much as a solid starter the last 6 weeks of last year. Last year, like this year, he began it in the bullpen. You might remember the end of May, he tried to bunt and broke the index finger of his right hand, and that put him on the 21-day disabled list. Little flare down the right field line, and it will land foul untouched.
The report on Joe Magrane is that he strained tissue on right side. He'll be reevaluated tomorrow.
That can be a very, very tough injury. I've seen guys hurt rib cage area, and they're out for, especially pitchers, and be out for weeks and weeks. It just doesn't seem to heal. I'm not sure if his is that serious, but that would be a terrible blow for the Cardinals. With Tudor already on the shelf, Daly out, Laga and Morris out, if they now lose Magrane for any period of time. 1-2 to Lindemann, who was struck out and walked. Breaking ball lifted. Tim Tuffle gone out. Mookie Wilson is there. Time to get another update. Let's go to New York.
Then we go back to the Astrodome, where the Reds have taken the lead in the 8th and in the year of the balk in appropriate fashion. Ernie Camacho makes the mistake. Cal Daniel gets the gift. The Reds scored 5 times in the 8th and now lead the Astros 6-2. Now let's go back to Shea Stadium. Vin?
Okay, Jim, we have one away and Steve Lake at the plate. 1 ball and no strikes. David Cone, in September of last year, pitched a very big game and beat the Cardinals 4-2. He only allowed 1 earned run in that game going into the 7th inning. And that really impressed Davey Johnson and Mel Stottlemyre. Though they think that David Cone is the arm, maybe not of today with their big 5, but each time he gets into a ball game, his stock goes up.
Davey flat out says he's going to be a big man in my bullpen.
Fastball, 1-2 the count. Mel Stottlemyre on the left, along with the skipper, Davey Johnson. And David Cone. 1-2. Good breaking ball. And that takes care of Steve Lake. That's his first strikeout, the 9th strikeout suffered by the Cardinals. Watch that thing break away.
Not only does it break sharp and dig, he's got it in a real good spot. Puts it right on that outside part of the plate. And you can see Lake kind of bail out. He just couldn't reach it.
Pitcher, number 49, Larry McWilliams.
Larry McWilliams, with 2 down on the bases empty, will come up and hit for himself, so Scott Terry stops throwing in the bullpen. In there. Larry McWilliams, 34-year-old. To the count. McWilliams won as many as 15 games as a starter for the Pirates back in 1983. Back.
Reading off what that sheet that Stottlemyre gave his pitchers, he said hitters with a 3-1 count is 324 on the average, while hitters with an 0-2 count bat only 191. And he's trying to pound it into him. Throw strikes.
Little nubber up along third. Cone down to get it. And nips him at first base. So the Cardinals go quietly in the 6th, and at the end of 5.5 innings, St. Louis 4, New York 3. It is cold here in New York. The last time we checked, it was 39 degrees. Of course, Dwight Gooden pitched in the rain and cold last night, and they told us he was magnificent. 6 innings, a 2-hitter, and really throwing hard. Meanwhile, the Cardinals had the good sense to bring along plenty of foul weather gear, and they're well bundled up. But it's a tough game to play. There aren't very many games you can play in cold weather, but certainly you can play football in it. But baseball is a little tough. There are different demands. You can wrestle in cold weather, right?
In baseball, I think it's harder to throw the breaking ball. I know if you hit the ball off the end of the bat on a handle, forget it, man. It'll rattle your toenails.
Here's Howard Johnson, then Kevin Elster, and the pitcher David Cohn. Bottom of the 6th inning, the Cardinals 4 and the Mets 3. Hit foul off first, way back into the crowd. 0-1. The Mets led 2-0, 3-0 at the end of 3 innings. The Cardinals got 3 in the 4th to tie, and in the 5th inning, Vince Coleman hit a home run to give them a 4-3 lead. In the corner, strike 2.
That 3rd inning looked like when the Mets were going to blow it open, and that's when Howard Johnson hit into the double play. Cardinals, with that play that they used to win division championships with, got out of the jam in that 3rd inning.
1-2 the count. Johnson starting off slowly this year, but he also was very slow last year. You might not remember, but in his first 26 games last year, he only had 3 home runs. Wound up hitting 36. So this could be his pattern. 3-2. What happened to Howard Johnson, and looking back over last year, he really caught fire the 2nd week in May. Base hit into left field. So the Mets come up with a leadoff single to get the tying run aboard, and now it'll be Kevin Elster.
Johnson hits that ball hard, hits it right in the hole. No play for Pendleton. Elster taking a good look at his 3rd base coach, Bill Robinson, talking to Howard Johnson at first base. So if nothing else, it puts a thought in the Cardinals' mind, because Davy Johnson, he'll put a play on if he has to.
This will be a very interesting test of Elster and the Mets. Tell you why. We mentioned earlier about the Elias Bureau and the close study on games. They pointed out that the New York Mets last year did not have their 8th place hitter sacrifice even once. They were the only team in the major leagues not to have the number 8 hitter sacrifice. And here's the number 8 hitter with the tying run at first and nobody out.
I tell you, with his control, I would at least take the luxury of a pitch out to see what's going on, because there was some confusion. Elster took a good look at his 3rd base coach, and then he was checking with the runner. Johnson's checking with Robinson. There's something in the wind, as they say.
And he's swinging. High fly ball to left field. Coleman, however, has a play. 1 away. So again, that holds up from last year to this. The 8th place hitter swings away for Davy Johnson. Boy, is that a difference. Imagine a rookie shortstop down by a run in the 6th, hitting 8th in the lineup.
I would think he'd maybe start the runner, at least stay away from the double play, but he just hitting like no one was on.
Very interesting. So Davy sticks to his guns. 1 out, a runner still at first. And now David Cohn at the plate.
Got to figure he's looking for a bunt anyhow.
Yeah. Well, he has Cohn bunting. And Terry Pendleton will take care of him at first base. Tommy Herr handling the throw. And on the sacrifice, Johnson takes 2nd. Mookie Wilson will be the batter. David Cohn moves his man over.
Had to be a lot of things running through his mind when Elster was up there. McWilliams, a pretty good move. Lake has an outstanding arm, but you still have to try to get that guy in scoring position, and if you're going to let him hit, maybe put a play on, but Davey elected not to, and 2 outs and a man on second.
Mookie Wilson now trying to get the Mets even. It's 4-3 St. Louis. Breaking ball, but it wrinkled a little high. Ball 1. Mookie hit .316 against the Cardinals last year, but he had only 1 run batted in his leadoff spot. Right.
Terry.
You can see Scott Terry down in the pen. Dave Ricketts with his back to the infield. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to Mookie. Grounded to short, grounded to first, slide to right. Fouled away. 1-2. Mookie just missed hitting .300. Last year he batted .299. And he's the senior member in terms of continuous service with New York. He joined them in 1980. Wilson is 32 years old. Howard Johnson, the tying run at second with 2 out. Larry McWilliams working for the Cardinals. Number foul, no play.
Boy, you can almost see what Whitey's thinking. If he can just get through that 7th inning so he can bring in Worrell, who's his closer.
And Worrell has to be the closer because he doesn't have Ken Daly at least until May. 1-2 the count of Mookie Wilson. And that's going to be hit into left field. Coming up is Coleman to grab it, and Howard Johnson is left at second base. No runs ahead, a man left. It's still 4-3 St. Louis at the end of 6. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Now, this is the difference in the game. In the 5th inning, Vince Coleman against Sid Fernandez. And leading off the inning, Coleman hit it out. McReynolds tries to climb the wall and time and leap, but he was a buck short. So Coleman put the Cardinals out in front, 4-3. And Vince will start it off, and now he'll turn around and hit left-handed.
You see Howard Johnson point to the air. That's what the infielders usually do when they think it's a fly ball. So it must not have sounded like the home run that it ended up to be.
So Coleman, Smith, and Herr in the 7th inning, 4-3 St. Louis. Ball 1. Vince has popped up, struck out, and then homered. He is an absolute nightmare to the Mets when he gets aboard. As we mentioned earlier, he's perfect in stolen bases against New York Mets. 30 for 30. 1-1 to count. One ball, 2 strikes.
See why Dave Johnson is so high on young Cone. He's got a better than, I would say it's about a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, better than average, and a good curveball.
There's the curve right in on the hands, and the count's still 1-2. David Cone, 25 years old. He should be coming into his own one of these years soon. You might remember, then again you might not. He came over in a deal from Kansas City. Among others, sent Ed Hearn, the catcher, to Kansas City.
He had a tough opening day pitching for the Mets when he first came over here.
Got him. Fastball at the knees, inside corner. So that's Cone's 2nd strikeout. 10 Cardinals have struck out now.
Watch his fastball almost back up as it catches that inside corner. Coleman thought it was inside all the way, and it just caught that inside corner. Tough pitch.
Last year, he had a career-high 7 strikeouts in a game. That was against San Diego in September. One ball and 1 strike. When the Mets hit in the bottom of the 7th, they'll have Tuffle, Hernandez, and Strawberry. 1-1. On the hand, slice down the left field line and continues to slice into the seats, and the count 1-2. Weren't you surprised a little bit in the papers? You know, they had the study about expansion, and the senators who were almost threatening baseball.
John Warner did.
Yeah, and one from Florida and another from Colorado. I was really surprised.
That's got to be constituency talk, because where are you going to get the players for expansion?
There aren't enough players now.
That's right. I mean, it sounds nice. I know that St. Petersburg's got a ballpark. Tampa's trying to get one, and they want one in Washington, but where are you going to get the players?
Breaking ball missed. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, obviously, the senators don't really care about where they get the players. They want a team.
Sure, so they can go back to the constituents, huh?
Yeah. Little pop foul off third base, and Howard Johnson takes care of Ozzie Smith. 2 down in the 7th inning.
I tell you, if you were scouting Cone, forget his stuff, the good fastball and the good curveball. You have to be impressed that he's not afraid to come inside. He's a young 25-year-old hard-throwing right-hander. He got Coleman coming inside. He got Smith, jammed him inside. You like to see that in a young pitcher, because that pretty much tells the batter, hey, I'm not going to give you any of that plate. I'm going to come inside. I'm going to go outside. We'll battle for it.
Well, we'll see what he does with Tommy Herr. Herr flied to right, single to center, single to left. So Herr using the whole ballpark, as he usually does.
Tommy's a nice-looking guy, but with that stance, it looks like, watch how he kind of sneers at you. There he goes. Hitters will make almost faces at you.
Fastball in there on the corner. 1-1. See if he does it now.
You'll see it. There he goes.
Down on his foot. Foul ball, and the count 1-2. Cardinals 4 runs, 5 hits, 1 error. Mets 3 runs, 4 hits, 1 error. The difference, the home run by Vince Coleman. The Cardinals losing the services of Joe Magrane, who injured himself in the 3rd inning. That's about all we know. He hurt the rib cage on the right side. The extent of it remains to be seen. One and 2 to count. 2-2.
Inside again.
Texas beating Boston 2-0. High foul ball down the left field line. That will peel off back into the seats out of play. So it's still 2-2.
I tell you, you call that a curveball, but I wish we would have kept the. There's the face. But you know what it really is that he throws is that thing on the playground we used to call a drop, the overhand curveball, that good drop. That's what Cone has.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Tommy. Fouled away down into the Mets dugout. Well, still 2-2.
You know, Herr in his quiet way is going to move up into some pretty classy company. He's played 982 games, just behind Rogers Hornsby, who played 997. That's good enough for 5th place in the Cardinals' all-time team as far as games played at second base.
Tommy's got a way to go. Red Cheney's played 14 years for the Cardinals.
Well, they'll have a couple. Javier will be there too, but Red, there he is. Now, you talk about guys should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a guy who belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Played way over 2,000 games in his major league career.
That's about the way he played second.
Yeah,
too.
that's right. Yeah.
His 7th game of the World Series, same way.
Check swing, slow roller to short. Kevin Elster. And that's it. The Cardinals gone in the 7th. And at the end of 6 1/2, 4-3 St. Louis. Right now, here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment. A reminder, as soon as our ball game is finished, some of you will see the Yankees in Milwaukee against the Brewers. Others will see the Atlanta Braves against the Dodgers in Los Angeles. It is warming up, it would appear, as the sun comes out here at Shea Stadium. A little while ago, it was 39 degrees. The question before the house, what's the coldest weather you ever played in?
Pittsburgh. Never forget it. Opening day, we had snow flurries, but they had a big crowd. We weren't drawn that many in those days, so they were going to play that thing. We played in snow coming down.
And talking about Pittsburgh, a reminder to remind you, next week, Joe and I will be in Pittsburgh for their game with Chicago on the game of the week. The Pirates, the talk of the National League. The Pirates and the Cubs are scoreless in the 4th inning, the last we heard today.
And that'll be our game, Pirates and the Cubs. And those Pirates, they have really been a surprise. Sid Thrift, Jim Leland, they've really done a job over there.
Tim Tuffle, Keith Hernandez, and Darryl Strawberry against Larry McWilliams. 1 ball and no strike. Ground ball to shortstop. Ozzie Smith takes care of Tim Tuffle, 1 away. Well, a very warm welcome on a chilly day in New York to all you folks who are watching the Cincinnati-Houston game. And you saw a dandy. We got a tough one going here. The Mets led 3-0. The Cardinals got 3 in the 4th inning to tie. Vince Coleman hit a home run in the 5th inning, and that's the difference in the game. 4-3 St. Louis. Joe Magrane, the left-handed starter for the Cardinals, pulled muscles or tissue in his side and had to leave. It's been Magrane, Arnold, and Larry McWilliams with Scott Terry in the bullpen. Sid Fernandez and David Cohn for New York. So hopefully you're up to date. Hernandez, 3 ground balls, 0 for 3. A 4th ground ball is fouled. 1-1 to count.
The Cardinal bench had just moved Horner over there. Usually Hernandez will be trying to go at least from center field to the left field line, but trailing by 1, he's going to try to get that extra base hit because we are in that 7th inning.
1-1 to Hernandez. Strawberry on deck. Way out in front of a slow breaking ball. 1-2.
Now he's not wearing the batting glove. He wore it the last time. This time he's not wearing it.
Folks who are watching the Cincinnati-Houston game will repeat for your benefit. If you've noticed, Keith Hernandez's left hand is heavily bandaged. He cut it on a jagged piece of metal on a car door. Took 5 stitches on the back of the hand. 2-2. On the fists popped up, it'll be Terry Pendleton. Boy, what a job Larry McReynolds has done to come in and really restore order. Larry McWilliams, look at those numbers. 2 hits. Now he'll get Strawberry and McReynolds on deck. So Larry McWilliams, the 3rd St. Louis pitcher, has turned in a great job up to here. Strawberry walked twice, and then in the 5th inning, he sent Willie McGee up against the center field fence. If anybody can get you even with 1 swing, here's the kid. Breaking ball snaked in there. 0-2.
He gives you great motion, and he's been able to spot that ball very well. I tell you, in that 5th inning, after the Cardinals took the lead, he really slammed the door, and he's kept it tightly closed.
And he hits another fly ball, but this one to straightaway center, not deep. So it's a ho-hum inning for Larry McWilliams. The Mets are done in the 7th and at the end of 7. Cardinals 4, Mets 3.
Here's the difference between pitching and throwing. A 2-strike count on Strawberry, the one man who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, and Lake gives a fastball sign outside part of the plate and then sets up, and look where McWilliams throws it. Right on the target, and Darryl could not pull that pitch, and it's an out. He has really done a job.
Great job indeed. Larry McWilliams has worked 3 2/3 innings and allowed 2 hits and nothing else. Here's a quick scoring recap. In the bottom of the 2nd inning, Darryl Strawberry scored as Gary Carter grounded out to give the Mets a 1-0 lead. They added another on Terry Penelon's poor throw. He's got a sore shoulder. That made it 2-0 New York. Tuffle scored at Kevin McReynolds picking it up with a base hit to make it 3-0. But the Cardinals came back. Smith scored on the Lindemann walk on a pop fly with the bases loaded. Elster bumped into Tuffle. 2 runs scored to tie it up. And then Vince Coleman hit the home run in the 5th inning. But for the benefit of the folks who might have just joined us, 4-3 St. Louis in the 8th inning, and here's Bob Horner, and he goes to straightaway center, and Mookie Wilson is there. 1 away. So Horner 1 for 4 as he goes back to the dugout. And Willie McGee coming up. He'll turn around and go the other way. He had struck out twice and grounded out, hitting right-handed against Sid Fernandez. Well, now he'll try his luck from this side of the plate. Ground ball through into right field. So McGee singles to right, and that'll bring up Terry Penelon. McGee last year did not do a lot of running. In fact, his running has diminished considerably. As Mel Stottlemyre goes out to talk to David Cohn, we can talk about the fact that McGee in 1983 stole 39 bases. In 1984, he stole 43. 1985, he stole 56. Then in 1986, it dropped down to 19, and last year, 16 stolen bases. So there's been a considerable change. Randy Myers, the left-hander, is now throwing in the Mets bullpen. Pendleton and Lindemann coming up back-to-back, and Pendleton will now turn around and hit left-handed. Remember, there are 5 switch hitters in the Cardinal lineup. Todd Worrell is now up in the Cardinal pen. Now back.
Looks like Pendleton has gone for some extra protection for that forearm, as he just didn't want to get hit there and get knocked out of any games.
Pendleton walked, singled up the middle, and struck out. When he got that single up the middle back in the 4th inning, it was a fine play by Tim Tuffle to prevent the ball from going through. It cost Pendleton a run batted in. Nick Leyva maybe hanging out a sign. 1 away. 1 ball and 1 strike to count, and McGee inching away.
He doesn't have a very big lead. Looks like he just doesn't like to run unless there's a play on a hit-run play. Straight steal has not been his bag, as you pointed out, Ben.
They're going to watch him. One thing that has to concern Whitey Herzog is the Cardinal play since after the All-Star game last year. They have not been playing that well at all. Fouled off. Before the break last year, the Cardinals were in great gear. They had won 56 games and they had lost only 30. Since the break, they were just about a 500 club, 2 games over 500 right through the end of the year. And now this year they started off losing 6 out of 9. As we've said, one reason they have been plagued by injuries. 1-2. Breaking ball, roll, foul. We mentioned that Todd Worrell is throwing in the bullpen. Whitey Herzog is trying very, very hard to use Worrell only in certain circumstances. So much so that Todd has not warmed up in the bullpen this year without coming into the game. So the chances are, leading by a run with Worrell in the bullpen, he'll be pitching to the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. Popped up, back a shortstop. Elster going out. McReynolds has a much easier play. And where's the runner going? McGee had rounded second. He didn't know how many outs there were. And the Cardinals are not playing well at all.
$3 million scoreboard up there. Signed maybe about 8-10 feet, but Willie didn't look at it, and boom.
So it happens. And at the end of 7.5, it's still Cardinals 4, Mets 3.
The play by Willie McGee. Now 1 man out, a routine fly ball. Now Willie obviously just forgot the outs. watch the look when he rounds second base and realizes, oh, but it's too late. I tell you, Ben, the Cardinals to win have to have good defense. They haven't had it. Not make mental mistakes. They've made them. And the running game, they haven't had it, but they're leading.
Willie McGee is somewhat embarrassed because we all make the same mistake when you continue to do the same thing over and over again, and the only difference is that ball players are in the spotlight. So McGee has a mental lapse. The Cardinals take the field leading 4-3, and they have a couple of changes. First of all, Tom Lawless will be at third base. Since Pendleton made the last out, Whitey can make a couple of maneuvers. So Lawless will bat ninth. Jose Aquindo takes over in right field. He will bat for Lindemann and lead off the ninth inning. And the pitcher, Todd Worrell, will go into Pendleton's spot since Pendleton made the last out in the 8th inning.
Now pitching number 38, Todd Worrell. Leading off for the Mets, Kevin McReynolds.
So it is 4-3 St. Louis, bottom of the 8th inning. Kevin McReynolds, Gary Carter, and Howard Johnson in that order.
Whitey wanted to get through that 7th inning with a 1-run lead and bring in his closer, and he's got that situation.
And it's hit right by the pitcher, fielded by Ozzie, who doesn't have a play. And the tying run is aboard.
Ball was hit off the end of the bat. He really didn't sting it, but sent it right back up the middle. And even though Ozzie came up with it, there was no way to make a play. See, the ball was not hit that hard because Ozzie actually outruns it. No diving, no nothing. He started to throw, but knew he didn't have the play.
So the tying run is aboard for New York and Kevin McReynolds, who comes up with his 3rd hit. McReynolds was the trailer when the Mets pulled off the double steal way back in the 3rd inning. So he's had 3 hits and a stolen base. Gary Carter has flied out, walked, and grounded out. Todd Worrell, premier relief pitcher in the league. Fastball. He had 33 saves last year. So he's had 30-plus each of his first 2 years. The only reliever in Major League history to have 30 or more saves in each of his first 2 seasons. 1 ball and no strikes. Foul back. Worrell is 6'5", 210-pounder. You might remember back in the fall, he struck out 4 batters in 3 innings in Game 3 to save and preserve a Cardinal comeback victory in the League Championship Series. And in the 7 postseason games, his earned run average was 1.5. 1-1. 2-1.
For the most part, he'll come at you with just his hard stuff, and then when he'll throw a slow curveball, you really don't believe it, and usually he gets it over for a strike, but for the most part, it's the fast stuff.
2-1. McReynolds goes, and so does the ball. A high drive into left field, gone. Todd Worrell has one turned around on him, a single by McReynolds and a home run by Carter, and the Mets have taken a 5-4 lead. The Mets have now out-homered the opposition 17-4, and they have hit a home run in 8 consecutive games. Carter hit 3 last year against St. Louis.
The high fastball, and Carter really got around on it, able to pull it.
2-0. So Todd Worrell, who's about as good as there is in the business, is roughed up by the first two hitters in the ninth inning. Actually, bottom of the eighth. In the ninth, it'll be Oquendo, Lake, and Lawless due up for St. Louis. Another drive to right, down the line, hooking in the corner, going fair as it hits the screen. Home run for Howard Johnson.
And he stayed at home plate to give it some body English.
So the first two home runs that Todd Worrell gives up this year comes back-to-back at Shea. And the batter is Kevin Elster. Ball one.
Whitey got the situation he wanted, a one-run lead. Eighth inning, is closer on the mound, and it explodes on him.
What was it? The best laid plans of mice and men and baseball managers. 1-1. Here's Hojo.
When he hits the ball, he really pulled it. Now, he thinks it's going to go foul. He's working on it. Look at him. He's working on it. And he sees it hit the screen.
And there's another drive, but this one would appear catchable, and Willie McGee is there to handle it. It's the third time this young year that the Mets have had back-to-back home runs. Strawberry and McReynolds, Strawberry and Carter, and now today, Carter and Johnson. 6-4 New York in the eighth. Remember, in the ninth, Jose Oquendo, Steve Lake, and Tom Lawless.
Pitcher David Cohn.
Fly ball into shallow left. Coleman fighting the glare and the wind. 2 down.
I tell you, Carter working so hard all winter has really paid off as we watch Coleman battle that sky and battle that wind, almost overrun it. And what a start Gary Carter is off to.
So Coleman makes a good play. Tough sky and a shifting, swirling wind. Both Carter and Johnson each hit 3 home runs against the Cardinals last year, and they each had a dozen RBIs against St. Louis. 6-4 New York.
He talked about his routine in the wintertime. He said it was like a job. I got up 6:30 every morning, got the kids off to school. 7:30 I was in the gym. I was home by 4 o'clock. So when the kids were home, I was home. But it was his job. He worked out every day.
1-1. Yeah, the old story. Ball players don't go to spring training anymore to get in shape.
I tell you, he looked tremendous. I tell you, he weighs 215 pounds. Look, he weighs 175. He's a rock.
1-1. Fouled off. 1-2. The Mets led 3-0. The Cardinals tied it, and the Cardinals led 4-3. And now in the bottom of the eighth, the Mets have scored 3 to take a 6-4 lead. 2-2. Who gets him? The ball dropped by Horner, but after the fact. So it's a 6-3 play. Gary Carter hits a 2-run home run to give the Mets a lead. Howard Johnson follows with another. And the Mets go into the ninth inning on the home run ball, leading the Cardinals 6-4. So we go to the ninth inning. And the Cardinals now trying to bounce back. It is 6-4 New York. Myers and McDowell throwing in the New York Mets bullpen. And the Cardinals will have Jose Aquindo, Steve Lake, and then Tom Lawless. There are 3 other hitters available to Whitey Herzog: Booker, Ford, and Pagnozzi. And Booker is now coming out on deck. Looped over third and inside the foul line. So Aquindo hits one inside out, and he'll be held to a single on a good hustle play by Kevin McReynolds.
Say, if you had just walked into the ballpark, you would have thought that Rod Carew was making a comeback with that stance and the way he served that ball.
The Major League Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there's only one light beer. By Mitsubishi Motors, who invite you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. Mitsubishi, suddenly the obvious choice. By Armor All Protectant. It protects and beautifies every time you wash your car. And by AT&T, the right choice. And Davey Johnson is hoping he can make the right choice. He's going to lift David Cohn and bring in Randy Myers. The left-hander Randy Myers will be called in from the pen to try and neutralize the left-hand hitters Booker and Ford on the Cardinal bench. It is 6-4 Mets, 9th inning. The Cardinals with Aquindo at first and nobody out. And we'll be back after this. An update in the Yankee-Milwaukee game. The Yankees have been having a lot of fun in the first inning at the expense of other teams in the American League. So Greg Brock and the Milwaukee Brewers turned the tables on him. Brock hits a 3-run home run in the bottom of the first, and the Brewers lead the Yankees 3-0. Meanwhile, here at Shea, Randy Myers is called in, and he will be pitching to Tom Pagnozzi because Booker came in. He was announced as a pinch hitter, so Pagnozzi is hitting for Booker. So there is one more left-hand hitter in the Cardinal dugout, and that would be Kurt Ford. Randy Myers tied with Todd Worrell for 8th place, most strikeouts among relief pitchers.
Randy Myers.
He led the league in a strikeout percentage against left-hand hitters and led the league in strikeouts with runners on. So he's tough. 0-1.
Hard-throwing left-hander. You know what he's proud of, Ben? When he was with Doc Gooden and Yeomans at Kingsport in a 3-game series, they broke 31 bats to the opposition. Now, that's a lot of bats in a 3-game series.
Well, he was a first pick in the '82 draft. Pitch fouled away, so they had high regard for him from day one. And, of course, Randy Myers coming of age, that made Jesse Orozco expendable. Myers been up and down. He came up briefly in '85, briefly in '86, and again in '87, and obviously here to stay in '88. Tom, it's a ground ball to the right side. Tuffle shovels Elster. He goes to Hernandez.
I tell you, you can see why they're so high on Elster as the middleman there. Tuffle had a little bit of problem. He was going to make sure he got the one man, but Elster really had something on that throw.
The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, produced by John J. Filippelli, directed by Andy Rosenberg. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Mary Buto Lamusio. And technical directors Lenny Stucker and Richard Sansevier. The Mets leading in the 9th with 2 out and the bases empty. 6-4. Tom Lawless trying to keep the Cardinals afloat.
Myers playing a kind of a litter bug helper, picking up all the scraps of paper. He's really an intense young pitcher. When he fires that ball, he'll come walking towards the plate. I mean, he's walking all over that mound.
One thing for Tom Lawless, he was the Cardinal third baseman against left-handers during the World Series. And you may remember that big 3-run home run he hit off Frank Viola in the 4th inning of Game 4. That proved to be the game winner. However, against the Mets last year, Tommy had a tough time. He hit .071. He had just 1 hit in 14 at-bats. So 2 down, 9th inning. And the Mets leading 6-4. Ground ball to the hole. Backhanded by Elster. The throw. Got him.
What a play. What a play.
In the 9th inning, no runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. So the Mets, who are down after blowing a 3-0 lead and trail 4-3, pull it out on home runs by Gary Carter and Howard Johnson. And our NBC Miller Lite player of the game would be Gary Carter. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Gary Carter to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Todd Worrell suffers the loss, and David Cohn picks up the victory. Quite a game.
It looked like the Mets were going to give it away, but they came back and they win it.
For Joe Garagiola, this has been Scully saying so long from Shea Stadium in New York. We'll be talking to you next week at the Cubs-Pittsburgh game in Pittsburgh.